Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 810. We celebrate 20 years of Raging Bullets and the wrap-up of DCKO.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC Comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding.
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Jim, the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we are actually combining, because we had to miss last week due to power outages and life in general. We had to miss last week, so we decided to just combine both episodes, because this is our 20th anniversary show, and we want to wrap up DCKO. It was a happy accident that this just came about this way. So we are covering Aquaman number 14, Titans number 32, Flash number 30, Justice League Unlimited number 16, Superman 35, and DCKO number 5. We are sponsored as always by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Absolute Catwoman issue 1 of 6, 48% off, only $259. Absolute Green Arrow 1 of 6, 48% off, only $259. And we have Barbara Gordon Breakout issue number 1, 48%, only $207. Thank you, DCDS.
As we look at DC Next Level and we look at the Absolute titles that are coming on board, some of this expansion of the Absolute universe, we're going to be doing the first issues in bundles of these. So those two Absolute books we're going to do along with the Next Level stuff that we're going to be taking a look at. Just kind of an overview of, as DC's expanding its line, how do we feel about these books? So kind of keep that in mind. We're focusing heavy on story arcs on this show, but in those cases, I think it's good to dip our toe into the first issues and what's going on with these books. How are we feeling about them? So we're going to be doing a series of episodes around that. So just a heads up, as you're looking at ordering, we're going to be talking about them. So if they were books that weren't on your radar, but you like to follow along with the show, those are ones you want to keep on your radar because we are going to do those. InStockTrades.com has Absolute Wonder Woman hardcover volume 2, $17.99. It's a $29.99 book regularly, 40% off, only $17.99. The same thing with Absolute Batman hardcover volume 2. They also have an amazing series of Absolute trades that are there. They still have the Absolute Batman trade paperback volume 1, The Zoo. That one's $17.99 regularly, 40% off, only $10.79. They have the Absolute Wonder Woman trade paperback volume 2, $19.99 regularly, 40% off, only $11.79. And the Absolute Martian Manhunter trade paperback volume 1, $17.99, 40% off, only $10.79. So if you are dipping your toe in the Absolute universe and looking for a cost-effective way to do it, or you want those collectible hardcover editions, InStockTrades.com is your source to go and get them at amazing discounts. I find now that I'm collecting more and more collected editions. I've got a wonderful shelf space set up in my basement. I have to do pictures of them sometimes and kind of share them on our Facebook group, just kind of what my setup looks like. I always love when other people do that. Just kind of gives me ideas. But I've been putting these shelves together for collected editions and set up kind of a reading area in my basement. So that way I can kick back and enjoy them. Because sometimes I like to read paper. I love reading on my iPad, but sometimes I really enjoy just opening a book and sitting there with that experience, whether it's Absolute editions or hardcovers or trade paperbacks that I'm getting. And instocktrades.com is a great way to get all of those at a discount. I want to personally, in the 20 years we've done the podcast, they've been with us almost all of those years. And I want to thank DCB Service and instocktrades.com as a company for continuing to support our podcast and many other podcasts. We couldn't do this without, well, we could do this without them, but it would be much more costly without them. I appreciate them helping to offset the costs of our podcasts. It's really, really helpful when you're doing this. Mr. Seguin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Mr. Whalen, Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plotlines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
I love that you felt the need to take the breath and continue it on. Like you didn't just let it end there. You're like, no, I need to give them more. I don't know who you think you needed to give that to, but
there's the silent masses who love that.
Yeah, well, it's because they can't hear anymore. It's like you did that to them. Let's talk some comics.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
All right, Jim, Aquaman number 14, Zebel Undone. Jeremy Adams is the writer, Daniel Bayliss on art, Rex Locus on colors, Dave Sharp on letters, John Tim's main cover, Nathan Zerdy, Sawi, Oziger, and it's Yildirim on the variant covers. Michael McAllister, associate editor. Paul Kaminsky is the editor. Aquaman created by Paul Norris and Mort Weisinger. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. This is an example, and I'm going to say it, I'm digging Aquaman, and I think it's been like readily apparent by my gushworthiness every time we've touched on this during this particular crossover. But this is an example of how you use a crossover to build readership for a book. And I hope people are giving this book a shot because of DCKO, because Aquaman's been fantastic. I think this has done a great job of spotlighting the really cool storyline that is going in an Aquaman right now. I love this whole Crimson Queen storyline. And I was swerved by it. I knew there was something shady. I did not think it was going to turn out that she was Mira's mother or something like that. And I love the lore. I love that we're getting additional lore, and it's going back to something that has been a mainstay in recent Aquaman. This idea of Zebel and what was done to them and how they were so separate from Aquaman's people in Atlantis. I love everything about this story. It's just a great, great storyline. And I like that it's not, sometimes with crossovers, they derail the main book in a way that it's like awkward and forced and it doesn't feel right. This has been none of that. It's been, Aquaman's been a part of DCKO. We're going to tell you how he all fits into all this. And we are going to roll out the carpet on why you should be reading this book. This is how you do it. To me, this is how you do it.
Oh, God, yeah. And I'll tell you, I really do love this character. She is absolutely brilliant. You know, when she first hit the scene, we both were like, is there something funny with her? Huh? You know, and I loved how we both were like, we had no idea who she was, where this was going to go. Everything you were just saying, I am completely echoing on. And she is a villain that I want to see around for a while.
Agreed.
Just because this is an Aquaman villain, but reality, this is a Mira villain. And I love the fact that it's Mira's mother who is her villain, you know, because we both love Mira, and I love that her main villain is her mother. You know, how awesome is that? And this is a character I want to see around for a while, even after all this stuff plays out, because they did such a great job of crafting who she is. I understand her motivation. I understand what's going on. Now, she's a little bit on the crazy side, you know, and a little bit on the evil side. But I understand.
A little. Oh, no, she's having a bad day.
Exactly. She just needs a hug.
Like, what is your definition of a little? What's your definition of a lot? I'm going to make one argument with you on this one. I agree with everything you're saying about her being a Mira villain. And and the fact that she's almost a Mira embarrassment because of that. But the way that she hates Atlanteans, she's absolutely 1,000% an Aquaman villain, too.
Hold on. Yes, she is an Aquaman villain.
They're not like pals.
Right. No. She is an Aquaman villain. She's an Atlantean villain. But again, when you look at like who a villain is going to fight, to me, she's a Mirror combat. A Black Manta is an Aquaman combat. A Lex Luthor.
Did you not see what she did to him this issue?
Yeah. Well, but I'll be honest. I still say
that again was that was a mistaken gif.
Well, I will still say she's a Mirror villain. Just like Joker is a Batman villain, Lex Luthor is a Superman villain. When you got to classify what hero they're associated with, I associate her with Mira over Aquaman. Even though Aquaman's the main title, for me, they've done such a great job of creating who Mira is. She needs to have her own rogues gallery, and this is the top of her rogues gallery.
I would make an argument, though, that there's some, and I look at this, and maybe this is just how we look at the characters in certain rogues galleries. There's certain Flash villains, for example, that are Barry and Wally opponents. And I would make the argument there's certain Batman villains that are Nightwing and Bruce villains as well, or Batgirl. And, obviously the Joker's kind of everybody's friend in that whole crew. I mean, like Barbara Gordon's got serious issues with them. Jason Todd has serious issues with them. So I get your point, though. I mean, if you're saying who is the primary, and that goes back to your Batman analogy, I think, with the Joker. The Joker is a Bruce primary villain. And I would make an argument with you, and I agree with you, that like, okay, we got to, in the pecking order, who all has first dibs on this one? It would be Mira.
Yeah.
So, from a dibs standpoint, I'm going to correct myself and agree with you and go, you know what? She does kind of have first dibs. This is Mom, and Mom's crazy, and Mom's done horrible things to her. So, there's a problem here. I mean, she really does, and we need to talk about horrible things, because that's where this book opens up, is her just basically decimating some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And in her basically saying, I am taking over. Everything you've got here is primitive. You were able to lock me away before. That's not happening again. And she's there using a show of force. She has built a plan. And really, to the point, like when she's taking Arian and saying, hey, your magic's primitive. We know he's a heavy hitter. He's a long-standing DCU heavy hitter. For her to just wipe him out like he's nothing says something about her power set. This was an effective way to open the issue and kind of set the stage for, all right, Mira and Aquaman even teaming up together are going to have problems with her. And I love that. I love the way that this was laid out. I also love seeing the power set play out underwater, where you're seeing, massive movements of the force of water. I was watching Star Trek 4 because I just, that's some of my comfort food is watching the Star Trek, the original cast Star Trek movies. And, anytime I start with, I do start with motion picture now, which beforehand I used to be somebody who got kind of bored with motion picture. I don't know if it's a sign I'm getting older. I like the director's cut of motion picture now. Like I want to start there and go all the way through. Obviously, Wrath of Khan's the one where then I'm going, hoorah!
Yeah.
But what actually motivated all this was I was listening to the Star Trek Con podcast, where it's that 9-episode, and if you haven't listened to this, if you're a Star Trek fan, this is just a PSA for you. The Star Trek Con podcast tells the backstory of in between the original Star Trek episode with Khan and Wrath of Khan, what happened to him on the planet. It's a great story for anybody that's looking for that to be filled in. It actually does a lot what comic adaptations do for us sometimes.
Yeah.
But where I'm tying that back into this, in Star Trek 4, they were talking about the pressure of water and trying to fit that into the ship and things like that. And the fact that they needed a certain level of glass to be able to go inside that Klingon ship in order to make that happen. I love when artists are able to show this sense of what water can do. Because I'm fascinated by the underworld of Aquaman. I think I've become an Aquaman geek. And this is an example of something where I just love when they play up the differences between combat underwater, whether it's magic or it's physical. I love when they play that up, and they're doing a really good job in this book of making this feel like a very unique experience. I look forward to every issue of Aquaman just to see what they're going to throw at me next.
This, again, going along with what you're saying, the story is awesome. I'm loving the story, but this artwork on life underwater, combat underwater, movement underwater, just the general showing the flow and the motion. It's one of it's weird things, like with the way they have their hair, just kind of like, it's, their hair is just going off slightly, because it's not going to lay flat because you're underwater. You're going to have the natural tide and the motion of that kind of stuff. And I love when they do little stuff like that. There's this little subtle stuff on artistry, showing just how they react with the background around them. It's, little touches like that give us, a little bit extra a little bit extra enjoyment of the book. And one of the things I also did love about this story arc is they do explain pretty well why Mama Mira is, so powerful. Mm-hmm. It's not just her magic. It's not just it's the connection to, that little necklace she gave her dad to, hey, wear this for luck. Oh no, I'm going to siphon Omega energy off of you.
Yes.
And I love the fact that was also part of her plan. Again, brilliant strategy of our villains. I love the fact that she's like, oh no, I'm going to take some Omega energy. I'm going to combine it with this magic. I'm going to combine it with this magic. I'm going to combine it with this. And I'm going to create something that is so powerful, you can't touch me.
It's playing in the crossover playground. Yep. I love that. I love when they do that, and they've incorporated into this story in a way that is so brilliant, where while he's fighting in DCKO, she's siphoning this off. It actually, now the question goes, what would he have done in there if she had not been doing that to him? Because what basically we're finding out right now is, compared to the others in there, he was depowered a bit.
Yep. How, how would that have played out with Aquaman in the tournament?
Yeah.
That, again, is another what if kind of scenario.
Love it. I love it. Because stuff like that gets really geeky going, I don't know, Aquaman's like up their upper tier. That's why he was having an issue here. I love that she's taking advantage of the fact that Arthur's off the table, and she is trying to lay waste to the undersea kingdoms, and take control. That part was really awesome. I love that I love that in this whole process, she is willing to betray her family, her own family, her child. She is flying in the face of Mira on this, and total disregard for her. It's her quest for power is everything. And it's very clear she would run over her daughter, her daughter's family, perhaps even her grandchild. Like, what is going on here in this whole process with her? This is, to me, the root of all evil. When you start seeing this is how you craft a very evil villain, because I feel like nobody's safe when it comes to her.
No, and the other side of it is she's tapping into powers she doesn't completely understand.
Yes.
And so the question runs, how much of this was her, how much of this was corruption, how much of this was a little bit of column A, a little column B. And that's something I do also enjoy. Now, granted, she's evil, so she's a bad guy. So I got no problem with calling her a bad guy. But I do love the fact that when she's, when she first gets turned into stone, it's, that first connection she has, and it's that first day when she first gets the power from the sea god Dagon, and that first connection, which is, part of the corruption, but even before that, she had she wasn't completely nice. She wanted vengeance. She wanted to destroy Atlantis. She wanted she's got that evil in her. So how much of it was amplified by Dagon? How much of it was just her being her? I love when you start getting debates like that and thoughts start running through your head about a villain.
Yeah, and that's really an interesting sort of piece with this, is the fact that you see her and she looks happy, and has a child and everything looks good, but she never let that go. And when she had the carrot dangled in front of her and had a chance to either put her family first or put vengeance first, she chose vengeance.
Yeah.
And that's where she was, locked up in stone because of it. What a tragic story. I got to admit, this is making me want to read more Aquaman. Like, I've got to admit, I haven't read every single thing that I would like to read. And I want to go back through and did I miss something that alluded to this particular story with the mother turned to stone, or is that something new that was put in here? This piece I did not know. And I want to go back and see what have I missed in my reading along the way. I love when runs do that.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. And I do love the fact that there is a side of her, that is good. And I'm doing air quotes around the word good because she's doing this in her head. She's doing this for her people.
Yeah.
And I do love the fact that she brings forth a new kingdom for her people, and she's doing it even on the surface. So that's kind of interesting that, she's not just destroying Atlantis, she's giving a home for her people. So I kind of like that about, again, I like that about her as a villain, and curious to see if, now we know Aquaman's going to take her down. We know that, or Mira's going to take her down, or something. She's not going to win because she is the bad guy in the story. But part of me does wonder what would happen if she won, if her people were put on this planet, if, what kind of ruler would she be of her people? Would she be a tyrant, or would she be, for the people, by the people? And would it just be the outsiders who are in danger? It's kind of, she is a curious character in that part of me thinks she would be a tyrant for her own people, and they would want to rise up and stop her, and then she'd have to crush her people and all that. But part of me wonders, could she actually be merciful to her people, just not to outsiders? I don't know.
Yeah. It's the interesting part is we know, and I'm very clear on this piece. She came to Atlantis to kill Aquaman, Mira.
Yes.
And we're seeing more of the backstory of her people fleshed out and clarified, you start to see more where that originally came from. And I love that Mira, got to see the other side of the story to the point where she fell in love as a child now with Aquaman. And, that's her great love. And that's been a rocky journey along the way with them. Had its complete ups and its complete downs along the way and everything in between. So I love seeing them together now. I love this story giving a chance to spotlight not only Aquaman, but Mira in all of this. And I love that we saw the problem, like something's wrong here. But I also love that I'll use myself as an example. I did not see this coming. I thought there was some kind of shenanigans going on, some kind of, kookiness going on with the daughter. I thought it was still the daughter. Or, something was done to the daughter, or there was some kind of twist along the way. When that reveal happened that, like, oh my gosh, everyone in Atlantis is still in a bubble.
Yeah.
And they're all still there. I loved how every bit of that played out, because it gave us the nice nugget of, you guys were supposed to think something's going on. Now we're going to tell you there is, but we're not going to completely tell you what.
I love the reveals as time goes on. And it's funny, even now, we have a pretty good solid on everything that's going on. There's still going to be some mysteries. There's still going to be some swerves.
Agree.
And that, for me, is one of the great things about a story. When, like you, I do want to read more Aquaman. Even though I'm reading the books, I still want to go back and read more of the lore of the older stuff, and, just dive into the character. And that's something this book has done. I'm always eagerly loving when they show Mira as a badass. Mm-hmm. That is just so cool, because again, they're doing a great job with this, and I want to see where this goes with Aquaman. And it's, this is the Aquaman title. You want to see where this goes. You want stuff to happen. You want to see the hero rise up. We spent a couple minutes with me saying how this is a Mira villain, not an Aquaman villain, but it's still the Aquaman title. I still want to see Aquaman, how he deals with the ramifications of his contact with his mother-in-law. I want to see where this goes with the character. So they're doing a brilliant job of having this really large cast of characters, developing them, giving us a beginning, middle, end of storylines and story arcs and whatnot, but not forgetting Aquaman's the lead. We don't want to bury our lead here. So they still keep bringing him in, still keep him involved, but it's not like, oh, we got to throw Aquaman in. Yeah, no, this is a solid usage of him showing that he's not just one man in this title. It's kind of like how we love Team Arrow concept. We have Team Flash concept. I love, what I've got, when Superman, when you see all of the super family working together, when you see all of the Bat family working together, I love seeing all of the Aquaman, all of his support team. This is something that's been really cool journey on this and has me anticipating even more what's going to happen next.
So as I'm reading this story and what I'm really digging is I love stuff like the Hag. The Hag being used as a tool to bring Mira up to speed because she needs to have not only the same knowledge bank we do, but also now she needs the pieces filled in that we don't have. And I love how it was a great vehicle for us all to be brought up to speed on what's actually happening here. And I love that she asked the question, how do you know all of this? Because that doesn't make, Mira is smart. And I love the way that she's written. You and I are big fans from the Brightest Day bits and Blackest Night with Mira. What they were doing with her there, I thought was a brilliant reclarification of this amazing character. And I really do want to go back and read the original Aquaman stuff to see how Mira evolved along the way to get to be this person that we have now, because I have not read all of that. But it's because of stuff like this. I love that, like, her mother said, somebody's going to break out of that bubble. You got to kill him. Yeah. And does not clarify if one of them is my daughter or my grandchild, perhaps not them. That was not a caveat. There is no, I feel like her orders should have an editor's note, and they do not.
Well, and once again, that's the kind of evil, that she's got going on. That she's like, kill anybody who comes at me,
And I absolutely loved all of that.
Yeah.
I love when she raised the land.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was cool. That kind of level of power. We're not just concerned with under the sea. We're concerned with global domination here. She is like, we're taking everybody and everything. So that part I thought was really, first of all, I thought it was a beautiful piece of artwork. When you get to see those land masses come back up again, I just love that kind of stuff. And there's some tragic piece. It's Nereus. When we see Nereus get run through, I was like, wow. He, sacrificed himself to make sure that Mira was able to survive all of this. At least I think he's dead, right?
Yeah, that looks to be dead to me.
Yeah.
It's, again, in comics you say, are they dead? I think this guy's dead.
I do too.
But because he had the great final ending, where he's sitting there saying, save this world. I am blessed to have known you, to have loved you. Your eyes hold my heart. Arthur is a lucky man. And he dies. And like, he got a good death there, and he got a send off and a farewell and all that. So again, we knew you well, my friend.
She pulls Aquaman's statue back. And I love that she's still playing the scam, the con, when she brings him out initially, and he immediately stands against it. When he starts asking all the questions, starts seeing what's going on. He does not recognize yet, though, that this is not his daughter.
Yeah.
He just recognizes that something is wrong. And she immediately is taking control. I mean, she basically pulls all of the water from him, right?
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
What did she do to him? Because all that's left there afterwards is like...
It's like because of the power of the blue in him, and she controls the power of blue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how with the Flashes and the Speed Force.
Yeah.
When Barry went into the Speed Force, she pulled him into the blue and then dissipated him.
Well, and think about how much of us is water anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, most of us is water.
Yeah. So, I mean, that part fits, but there's no skeleton left. So to your point, there's something different there to all of that. So I think your logic is really, really sound. But Mira's showing up on the scene. Now, Mira is depowered, right?
Well, she's still's got the Atlantean stuff. Well, not the Atlantean, she's got the underwater sea people. So she's got strength. She can, breathe underwater and on surface,
But she does not have the water powers that
she does not, before. Because I know she does not have that the water telekinetics things that, because Arthur got that power.
Correct. Okay, so we're seeing it the same way.
We're seeing the same way.
But I think it's more, I guess what I'm saying more is it's more badass when you see her coming out of the water.
Yeah.
Because she is depowered.
Yeah.
I'm not by human standards, but certainly by the standards of what she's used to operating with. I love the cliffhanger of this.
Yeah.
This is a great way to do this with this epilogue. And that's our babe, the kid's Arthur, right? Washing up on the sea.
I'm assuming that's young Arthur, and does he have powers? Does he not have powers? Is he back to being Aquaman? Is he being the thing? Who is this kid?
And what does Emperor Aquaman mean?
Yeah.
I love that we're hitting into a new arc. This is so exciting. Like, I am really, really jonesing for this. It's a great, great story. It's funny, the real touch point of this for DCKO is just the Omega Energy component of it and how Aquaman's being inserted back into the, playing field. Like, no longer a dead statue. Dude is back. Well, at least we're assuming he's died and been reborn again on this beach. Does she know that? I guess my question is, do you think...
Which beach is that? That's the other question. Because is that the beach of the island that they're on, or is he back at his old lighthouse where he was born?
Yeah, I'm guessing he's not. He's at the minimum. I'm guessing he is not where they are. I'm wondering if he's in the same time or not.
It could be a whole other plane of existence. You never know with this stuff.
I love that, though. I think it's a really good story. I love a mystery at the end that makes you want to read the next arc, because this really is kicking off the next arc for this amazing series. And I'm just loving this. Jeremy Adams is doing a great job with this book. I really hope it is selling well. And that's not a gloom and doom, just to be clear for listeners out there. That's not me that I've heard that it's not. It's more of when you love a book and it's not Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, you're protective of it. I thought like Green Arrow that has been canceled. I'm glad Green Arrow is going to be appearing in the Batman books now as a backup story. But, I loved his book and that went bye-bye. So I want this book to continue on because this has got a lot of legs to it. I mean, it feels like they're just tuning up the band. Like this is just getting warmed up. And I love that DCKO is perhaps offering an opportunity for new readers. I'm hoping people jumped on this. Can we talk about Titans number 32?
Oh, yeah.
So John Layman is the writer, Pete Woods on the artist and colors, Wes Abbott on letters, Pete Woods on the covers, Brad Walker and Marcelo Maiolo, Kanan, it's Canan White, and Andrew Dahlhaus on the variant covers, Marquise Draper is the editor, Brittany Holzer is the senior editor, Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. Apologies for any name butchery off of this one. And I knew that this was what was going to be happening with this issue. This is a wrap-up of the current John Layman run. We're actually getting a new writer and new artist for the next issue as we are seeing an evolution of the Titans that's going to be taking place here. This is a way you wrap up a run with this Tara storyline, and everything that they've been doing with this character is fun. I like that she isn't a light switch, where all of a sudden she's a good guy again and everybody thumbs up. Tara's just one of the gang. I like that it's more complicated than that and that there's a pathway being laid out here because Tara's an interesting character. I'm a huge fan of Judah's Contract. I think that was a game-changing story arc. When I read that, I'm like, oh, Titans are badass. And if you haven't read that story arc and you're listening to this, do yourself a favor and read the original. It's available as an animated feature, which is very good. It's available, there's been other versions of them that have been out there, but the original Judas Contract, the original Marv Wolfman and George Perez, if you've never read that should be on your short list of, I've got to read that story arc just to see how we got here with this character. There's a lot of things that happened in between with her, but if you read Judas Contract and then jump to this, you got it covered. That can be the Cliff Notes version of what's going on with Tara. Her betrayal is really, really interesting because the team had to make a decision, and I loved seeing this. they were very realistic on what they were dealing with Terra. Like, you guys are going into the fire with her. Let's talk about this. And I like that they made the plan together as the group. And it was like any good friendship group, pros and cons, and everyone was weighing it out, but they all weighed in together and unanimously made the decision to go forward with her. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's really relevant to why did they do this at all? And I think that's really this is great writing on this, because the Titans did not walk in and they were not blindsided by what happened with Terra. They knew we're taking her to a place where she's probably going to be overpowered. Are you sure about this?
I love the fact that we see these couple pages, because that is something that, kind of nagged at the back of my head. Why would you bring Terra to Gemworld?
Yes.
Well, they explain it, why they did it. They knew what they were getting into. They knew what was going to happen. They knew what the possibility, but they also knew there was a chance. There was a chance for good. There was a chance for Terra to do something good there. And I love the fact that, again, Titans, it's all about, and Donna Troy, has laid the groundwork on being, giving people second chances, giving people, the opportunity to show mercy. And it's who Donna is, because that's who she learned that from Wonder Woman. And I love how it's always, just this, who these characters are, and it's built into it. And the team itself, again, unanimous vote on all of them to say, yes, this is what we should do. And they all agreed. And this is, again, you say Titans together as a battle cry, but it's not just the battle cry. It is how they look at life. It's how they are, how they act, how they interact with each other. They are together. They are a family. And it is something that is really the cool sides of the best Titan stories have come across. You get that sense of family. You get that feeling of, yes, we're all together. We're all in on this, and I loved seeing this. And I love the fact that, again, that they were doing this and they planned it. And, even as they're laying it out, even as they're planning it, it could have gone horribly wrong for them. It could have, ended up biting them in the butt, but I love the fact that, they gave the shot, and it wasn't even just a single page. It was a couple for her to figure out what's actually going on. It was a couple for them to get the whole notion together. This wasn't an easy sell on Terra either. This isn't the end of this story. With Terra. This is just the really beginning of her interacting with the Titans, interacting with people, interacting with Gemworld. Does she stay on Gemworld when everything's said and done? Because she, that's a great place for her to be, a godlike powers. Will she stay there? Will she give that up to come back with the Titans? I don't know. And I do love the fact that, we get this character growth from Terra, but there's always going to be that. Is the old Terra going to come back, though? Is she actually really with the side of the angels, or is she still on Terra's side and she's playing it out, playing a safe bet, saying, okay, I'll make you think I'm with you. I'm on your side. Is this a double swerve? I don't know. And I love that.
Yeah. It's everything about this has been, it's just such a great story. It's great writing of the Titans. And the fact that they're a family. I feel like this is not and I love the Justice League, but the Justice League would not have handled this way.
No,
not as a whole team. You can't, actually, with the size of it now. How do you do that? Everybody, let's get in the room. Let's talk this one through and come to a unanimous decision. You can't with that size of a squad. You can with your subgroups. Obviously the Trinity can have their secret meetings, or you can have like this core group that are doing it, but you're never going to be able to have the whole group doing this. Certainly not as a family.
Yeah.
This is where the Titans link for me the way that the Uncanny X-Men did. And I think just the fact that they came from that same-ish era. What Wolfman and Perez were doing was the same time Claremont was doing a lot of his best work, or foundational work. I shouldn't say best work. I should say foundational work, because I'm a big Claremont fan across the board. I feel like there was some nice parallels going on between these two. I think at their best, the Titans at their best go back to what Wolfman and Perez were doing then. X-Men at their best go back to what Claremont was doing then. and continued to do, along the way and revolutionize. This is an example of going back and saying, who are the Titans? Let's tell this kind of story. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned how the Justice League would have handled this differently.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the Trinity. If this was the Trinity having a discussion on what to do with Tara, Wonder Woman would have thrown out, just like Donna is throwing out, hey, we got to give her a chance. Clark would have backed it because Clark sees the good in people. There is no way in hell Bruce would have ever said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. But Dick Grayson's in on this. Dick Grayson trusts his family. And again, it's one of those great dynamics of difference of who, Bruce is versus who Dick is. And it's, again, I love them both, but, this show, Dick Grayson's way of looking at things worked better.
So you and I are both seeing this the same way. So this is not disputing that. I would love to see that story now because of the current Batman. I feel like Batman's been going through an evolution. I think you're still right. It would be different because of Batman. But I think Batman would be different in how he'd handle it than he would have handled it 10 years ago in the comics.
Yes.
And I feel like that's where writing has evolved the character in some strong ways. But you're right. Still would be different. And I love, so yes to everything you said. I'm not disputing it at all. I think it would be an intriguing story, though, that would have been different than the Batman who had all of these secret plans.
Right.
He still has secret plans, but he's a little more forthcoming with them now with the Justice League, or at least his, Superman and Wonder Woman, than he was in the past.
And also the current Batman, if he was in on this discussion in this room, would handle it differently than in the previous versions of Batman.
Agreed.
And I think that's something where current Batman in this room, you take the Trinity, add them into this room, Clark and Wonder Woman would 100% go along immediately. Bruce would start breaking down all the areas where it could go wrong, and then he would let them, give them, no, but here's where it could go right. And in the end, I think Bruce would, defer to Dick. I think he would actually defer to him and say, what do you think? When Grayson's gives a thumbs up, Bruce would give the thumbs up along with it. But he would need to have this team here. And again, and even who knows,
and Dick, and to your point, what do you think? Dick would be laying out for him why. And Bruce has had reasons recently where, he views him as the best of them and things like that, where Bruce has come back and said, hey, I got to go. I agree with you that Dick Grayson would have to lay out the why.
Yes.
In order for Bruce to take that in and factor it into his consideration. But there'd still be an element of Bruce in there.
Yeah. Yeah. There would still be some Bruce in there. And again, I love how the fact that, because you think back, 20 years when we first started doing this, the Batman we had back then versus the Batman we have now. How much has changed over time, and I love that. And I'm always the guy who talks about evolution of a character, growth of a character. This technically is still the same Batman, but he's evolved based on his actions. He hasn't gotten older. Doesn't have gray hair and in retirement age, but he's still, they're still letting this character grow and develop and change, and it's, kind of a neat thing how, the death of Alfred, which, is still, I still want them to undo because I want Alfred back, but the death of Alfred is such a significant part of Bruce's growth and development and change.
I agree. That
it's something that I was like, if you're going to kill off a character, make it count.
Yes.
Make it be real. They're showing us that. They're showing us that. And again, tying it back to Titans, Tara, everything she's been through, we're making that count now. We're pulling it in and we're showing all that stuff that happened with Tara in the past actually, yes, did happen. We're not wiping the slate clean. We're not saying it didn't happen. No, it happened.
And everything in between. Everything in between has happened as well.
Yeah. And because it happened, that's why she makes these choices. That's why she sides with the heroes, and I love that.
Well, I love that she brings up the question, and I like that Tara's kind of dismissive at first going, you think there's good in everyone? She's like, no. I like Raven's like, no. but you might have some in you. And I love that honesty. Like, that was a really great dialogue exchange. And because I like the idea of, and Raven would know this, like being Trigon's daughter. No, there's really not.
There's some people that are pure evil.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, listen, I can tell you, like, no, but I do think you might have some good in you.
Yeah.
And I loved that conversation. I don't want to ignore what's going on with Grail and Donna Troy.
Oh, no, we got to talk about that.
Because I forgot how much I love Grail and really love seeing the exchange between them. And I love that Donna's like, I'm sorry, Roy, I'm not going to side with her. I like that we didn't get the traditional swerve of I'm going to pretend to side with her and then I'm not really with her and that type of thing. I love the way this worked. This is so Donna Troy. And I love them standing their ground and how this whole piece worked out, because it winds up being a great vehicle to bring in the backup team in a way that I didn't expect this to fully go until, seeing some of the crossover other issues that were going on. I'm like, oh, they might be going there with this. Yeah. This is kind of cool. I like how this is really all converging and playing out. This is another great book that is doing what Aquaman just did, where we're seeing this tie in deeply to DCKO. They're part of the extraction team, trying to get everyone in the world safe, to different locations. But at the same time, it's setting the stage for, we're going to wrap up this story arc and leave you open for what Titans is going to be next. Get you excited for what Titans is going to be next. Any crossover should do this as well.
Dude, I love, again, if this is going to be the new Titans lineup, I'm so 100% on board with it. I want to see this dramatically, because I love the fact that, Grail's getting ready to go the death blow. It was your choice. You chose this death, and you chose to talk when you should have attacked. Yes, I love that. And again, is that Clark? No, that's John. That's how John handles it, because John's best friend is Damian. He's learned something from his buddy, and I love just seeing how John played this out. And again, we don't get the Titans together battle cry, which I always cheer for, but we still get the same Titans kind of mindset. We still get that same dynamic. These are Titans that are coming together, and I love the fact that they can't take down Grail. Mm-hmm. Grail is super powerful. You can't just knock her unconscious and lock her in a cell. No, they boom tube her into the middle of outer space.
Yeah.
And they put her on the they slowed her down. They don't stop her. And I love the fact that they don't stop her. And you even see her. It's like, damn those humans. She's going to come back again, and she's going to be mad. What they did was piss her off. So I want to see that story. I want to see with the return of Grail and what she does to these Titans.
But I like that, recognizing their current situation, they didn't need to defeat her. They needed her out of the way. And honestly, a continued fight with Grail did not serve them in any, fighting her to potential defeat could lead to bigger problems.
Yeah.
Getting her out of the way is the best way to protect everyone and to survive all of this. I loved the choice because it just makes sense. It's, again, great writing where we're not doing these cookie cutter things. The Tara conversation where Tara has to make the choice. Listen, you got some choices ahead of you. Yeah, you can weigh in. You can hold on to the fact that you've been a villain. And we're not saying you should forget about that. We haven't. You shouldn't either. But you can start now with a clean slate. You don't have to do this to this world. You can make the decision right now to do something different. I loved the logic of what they were doing here. Everything was just really brilliant. The handling of Grail. We could have gotten the knockdown, drag out fight of this. Does that make sense here? It doesn't. That was what was great. It's like, get her out of the way. Our job right now is to protect people. Our job right now is not from an egotistical standpoint to win against Grail. Winning here is saving everybody. That's the goal. It's not defeating Grail. It's keeping everybody safe. And they accomplished the goal. It's really good stuff.
Oh, God, yeah. I'll be honest with you, I loved this story. And the wrap up here where we get the team together one last time. What's going to happen to them? We don't know.
Yeah.
Are we going to get, we're definitely getting new Titans, next month. And so what's the lineup? Is it going to be the kids? Is it going to be them? Where's everybody going to play out? I'm not 100% certain. I know I probably could jump online and find who the new lineup is going to be.
I have, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm
not doing it.
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that.
But I just am, because there's nothing here that I think this issue leads to some questions. But I love the fact that they gave us just enough, to get excited for, okay, what's next? What is the page? I turned the page and I wanted more. I wanted the next issue. That's what you should do with comics. I am reading. I don't know where you're at right now as far as reading. I'm like a reading sponge right now. I am doing everything I can to find time to read. You and I both have conflicts, job related, life related, things like that. And I'm saying life related more in your case than mine. But this is like something where I am striving to find time to read right now. And it's because the stories are just really enticing me. This is a really fun era right now. This DCKO event has been reinvigorating. It's not just the event, though. The books right now, DC is really hammering out some quality titles right now. I'm just enjoying myself in a way with the line as a whole that I haven't in a long time.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I haven't, don't get me wrong. I've loved comics the entire time. We've had great conversations about great story arcs, but I can't remember in a while where I felt this way about the line. And I don't know if you're feeling the same way, but it's something that's different right now, where I'm just like, every book is just getting me excited in a way. And I love that. I love it. I think they've got great creative going right now, and they're doing some interesting things. All right. The Flash number 30, Impulse Control Part 5, written by Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell. Art by Vasco Georgiev. Colors by Matt Herms. Letters by Buddy. It's Beaudin. Cover by Dan Mora. Variant covers by Ramon Perez. Daniel Bayliss. Editor is Chris Rosa. Group editor is Paul Kaminsky. And, oh boy, so much about this. As I've mentioned many times on the show, I am a Flash geek. I had a chance to go to Fan Expo Cleveland, and I got to be honest with you, it was so great. I'm going to, by the way, I do want to announce I'm going to Heroes Con this summer. So that's in July, I believe.
June.
June. I'm sorry. Yes, it is June. It's Heroes Con's in June, and it's in North Carolina. If you're listening to this and you're going to Heroes Con and you want to hook up or meet up, I'd love to meet anybody that listens to the show. I mean, I haven't been to Heroes Con before, but it's a true comic convention. And it's supposed to be like, comic book mecca. And I'm so excited to just go to have this experience where I'm overly stimulated by a comics environment. The creator lineup is outstanding. Where I'm going with this, though, Fan Expo Cleveland. I went there this time, and normally, like past few years, just celebrity lineups between GalaxyCon and Fan Expo, because it's a multi. It's celebrities, voice actors, gaming actors, and, comic creators. The comic creators have not been, I see so many of the same great people. I've already gotten stuff from them. So I go, it's nice to say hello, and really check in. But this time around, it was checking in with my favorites that are there. And it was so busy, Jim, and this is the truth. Ted Sikora, who I adore, right? I didn't get a chance to see him. And the reason why it was so incredibly busy there, I was like, I'm going to go stop by and say hello on Saturday, because I usually do the Friday and Saturday. So Friday's kind of like, let me get to people where I've got to get, like I haven't met them before and stuff like that. Then on Saturday, I've got some freedom to breathe, and I'll circulate around to some of my favorites who I've met before, where I'm just saying hello. Every time I went by his table, it was packed. The aisles were packed. So I don't want to, because of the fact that you've already got me. I love his stuff, and, you don't need to, I'm not going to go over there because I've got to have my moment. And I'm gonna let him talk to who perhaps is maybe somebody new to his work, and let him spend the time there, because I'm the one. I'm gonna do his Kickstarters. I'm gonna do all that. I'm following all of his stuff. He doesn't need to like sell me on this. But it was good to see. So Fan Expo, they already announced it for next year, Fan Expo Cleveland. But this time around was so much more comics for me. Meeting artists, I met Joe Quesada, which was really cool. It's everything about this was just like a lot of fun. And the creators of Batman the Animated Series, a lot of the behind the scenes people were there. Not everybody, but you got to see some big ones that were writers and producers and creators of Batman the Animated Series, and that whole line, the Justice League and Batman Beyond and all that stuff were there. It was a nice lineup of people. But I'm looking forward to Heroes Con, just to go to, I can't remember the last time I was at a straight up comics convention and just enjoying it. But it was nice to go to this one and have multiple, like I came back with a lot of signed comics, a lot of wall art, indie comics that I'd never checked out before. I walked out with more comic stuff this time than I have before at Fan Expo Cleveland, and I'm geeking out over it. It was just a ton of fun. But where it leads back into the Flash is I got a great print from Travis Mercer, and I got a comic signed from Travis Mercer. He did the artwork also on that DC crossover.
Nice.
Which, by the way, if you're like these oversized 11 by 17 comics, for anybody listening to this, so they did them all for Hush 2 so far. So I've got every one of I didn't know this was a thing. Remember that Batman 11 by 17 that came out? Well, did you know they did that for Hush 2?
No.
Every issue of Hush 2 is available in a giant size 11 by 17 format.
Nice.
Like bigger than an Absolute.
Dude, that's awesome.
The DC crossover. You might be interested in this. If you go to shop, you can buy that right now. Both issues as one collected giant, as an 11 by 17 right now.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
So I got that on order. It's available now. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm a fan of both wrestling and the DC crossover and that type of thing, it's Travis Mercer art, which he's got very strong artwork. But I got one of his prints with the current Flash costume, which I really dig, but it's also got like panels behind it of different Flash events. It's really, really cool. So I ended up grabbing that print, and I got a cover signed by him, and while I was there, he did a cool little sketch on the cover, which is nice.
Oh, nice.
Because I frame covers now, and it's always the experience of meeting the creators. So I framed the print and I framed the cover. And if you have not done this at a con, do yourself a favor and walk up and start getting some stuff signed or whatever your jam is. But for me, on Amazon, I picked up these great frames that actually fit perfectly around the comic cover. It's like this nice black frame, and I have been just rebuying them every time I go to a con and then framing these comics. And my wall looks sweet because it's great artwork, but it's also like this reminder of, oh, I remember when he drew that sketch. How cool was that? Really, really good stuff to do at a con. But this leads back to Flash because of the fact that it was this current Flash outfit that I'm just digging so much. Seeing Barry now, so jumping ahead to Barry and where we're at. Barry's in the middle of the crisis, and Bart has gone back in time to stop him from sacrificing himself in the crisis, which is a big problem if he does this for multiple reasons. Darkseid wants him to do it because Darkseid wants to absorb that energy. He wants this not to happen because then he gets his Speed Force, his version of the Speed Force, kicks into 11, and this will basically negate our Speed Force, the one we've been used to.
That's the thing I love about Darkseid's plan. Mm-hmm. It's not just to stop this event from happening.
Right.
He knows Impulse so well that Impulse will take Barry's place.
Right.
And I love the fact that this isn't just about, stopping Barry Allen from being the Flash anymore. That's not about that. This is 100% about killing the Speed Force. And I love that. Again, it does show that Darkseid is playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. He's one of the great villains just because of the level of strategy he's got going on here. Because and again, I love the fact that his Legion were like, oh, wow, that's cool. They were surprised by Darkseid's plan. And again, and they're not even just kissing butt, because part of it is, but they were also legitimately surprised and, oh, wow, he really does know everything. He really is planning for every contingency. It shows, again, it does show part of their loyalty to Darkseid is partially based on fear, partially based on reverence, partially based on just the fact that they're wired a little bit different. And I love seeing these pages that reemphasize that these villains aren't idiots. They have planning. They have intelligence. There's multiple layers to Darkseid's plan here. I love this.
This feels like it's got the flavor, and I think it's why I'm digging this DCKO event so much. Now we're in this month. And this month in particular, we're seeing a lot of Darkseid. and then Darkseid is back as Darkseid again. And I'm loving seeing him in this capacity. It's reminding me of my first real exposure to him was that JSA JLA crossover that George Perez did the artwork for. And I just remember him feeling larger than life. Like he felt like a villain that would require the Justice League and the JSA to even have an attempt at taking him down, and the New Gods. It was this triumvirate of just strong, badass characters coming together and doing that. And I loved that feel. This feels like that. Yeah. And I haven't felt this way about Darkseid in quite some time. This has been a great arc for this. It's kicked him up to a different level. And I love to your point, the planning, hearing him talk, hearing him lay out layers of what he's got. Everything has a reason behind it. It's very, very strong.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, I love how they're manipulating Bart. Again, it's not about mind control. It's about just throwing that suggestion in his head because he's impulsive. He's going to just he's just going to run off if you throw out a suggestion to him. I love that.
Yeah, that part is really, 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 really strong. And by the way, just so not to make this awkward, Heroes Convention is June 14th to the 26th. It's heroesonline.com. So if you happen to be able to be in the Charlotte area, it's at the Charlotte Convention Center. And I don't want to make light of that, actually, because I'm super excited for this con. I've heard nothing but good things about it. If you're a regular, please feel free to hit me up on socials if you are going to be there. I would love to see you. I'm definitely going to be there. I'm going to be there the whole weekend. I'm going to be there 2 of the days for sure. I'm meeting a group of people there, depending on what other events are going on or what people are doing. I'm going to be at the con at least 2 of the days. Obviously, if there's an opportunity to hook up with somebody here, who we listen to, I want to prioritize that. So please let me know if you're going to be there and you want to say hello. I would love to say hello, maybe have a meal with you or something like that along the way. Be a lot of fun to sit down and actually chat in person with some of our listeners and friends. But back to the Bart story. I loved seeing Barry and Bart's interaction. Barry does not know Bart. And I love that, Barry understands the implications of Bart taking his place. And as a true hero, he's not okay with anybody taking his place in this.
Yeah.
He understands the nature of what he's doing. And I love that while that fight is going on, we've also got Wally in present day actually in trying to duke it out with the Legion and Darkseid. And that's a very Wally move. I love everything about how Wally is being written in this one. He is a top tier player. Mark Waid does a great job of Wally's keeping them busy. Wally is trying to distract all this and keep Darkseid from being the puppet master and all this. While that's going on, they've saved Max. And we get to see a Max Mercury redemption story of sorts. Now, obviously he was been manipulated and all this, so he never looked like a bad guy because of what was happening. But I love that right now he realizes he was corrupted And he is motivated to, like, what can I do to put a stop to this? Because I love Max.
Yes.
Max is such a great character. And what I love is you love Max too. And you don't have the same reading experience I do with Max, which shows how well the character's been written along the way. Because I love it, as you're saying yes, there's some conviction behind that.
And again, he's one of those characters that I don't know as well, nowhere near as well as you do, but they've done such a great job laying him out that I'm like, that's a Max thing. That's Max all the way. And just how positive and just the guru of the Speed Force kind of, groove he's got going on. I really do dig this. And I love seeing the hero, that he is. And it's you understand his and Bart's connection. You start seeing just where everything is, how all this is playing out, and I loved them. And again, bringing in the Challengers of the Unknown, because that 100% is a group I know very little about. I've read some limited series on them, but I still don't really get a groove of who they are. But I love the fact that when they pull them into this, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see pulling in the Challengers. I can see that, no idea who the Big Tin Man is, but I'm like, hey, all right, let's rock and roll. And I love that I can be so comfortable with these characters, even though I don't have this deep, lengthy understanding of who they are. They're laid out so well here. They've done a great job just giving us the groove of who these people are that I'm like, yeah, that's classic Max. That's awesome, man.
The Challenger of the Unknown storyline. I love that this has been a tapestry since the All In special came out originally when they were doing this. I love that everything that's been going on in Justice League, all of these converging pieces are coming together. Nothing's been a throwaway. So we're now seeing the Challengers brought back into this, or elements of that Challengers series brought back into this. And it's great if you've read it, which I have. But I love, it's kind of like what you just said with Max. Like, I'm geeking out and living vicariously through you. I have a certain reading experience with Max. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll throw it out on the show. I think they've given people enough that they should feel the same place I am. I love that you're saying I feel this way about Max because of the fact that they gave me enough to feel this way too. The Challengers piece, I love when they do stuff like this. Great editor's notes where, hey, you want to know more about this? This is where you can find out more. But this will bring you up to speed on what's currently going on, why this person's even here, and why the robot's here, and what's going on. I love that this is converged this way. I love long-form storytelling. And you and I have been big fans over the 20 years we've been doing this. We've had some serious crossovers that have been long form storytelling with a mini series that came out 2 years ago that is now playing out now. I love when they do stuff like this and you're like, oh, this is what they were doing with that. Yep. And this is one of those moments where it was like, I forgot about this. Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we're bringing this in? How cool. I love it. I love it.
Oh God, yeah. And I'll tell you, it's we talked about with Aquaman how we both want to read more Aquaman from this.
Yes.
Every time we get a really good Flash story like this, I want to read more Flash. I want to read more Max. I want to read, and it's got me curious about the Challengers of the Unknown. Yeah, it's got me wanting to read that. That is something that a great story can do. It can build up these characters and get you saying, I want to read more now. I don't want to just continue on. I want to go back in the past, you're talking, when you kept talking about Wally West, the Mark Waid run and all that stuff, that made me want to read it. And I read it and I understand why you love, Wally West so much. It got me, appreciating who Wally is and, and again, who all the Flashes are. And it's one of those things that going back and reading the past stuff has got me, being really part of the Team Flash family. And just being part of this, all the people who talk about how great the Flash is. Yes. I've got my Superman moments, my favorite moments. Flash has that as well. Flash has those positive hero moments of, again, Flash fact. Flash is run towards danger. That concept of that the Flash is run into danger, not away from it, is always that true hero thing to me. And I love seeing that in this, where Wally West took on the Dark Legion and Darkseid, He didn't go, I'm a big guy calling for backup, but he knew he had to run in first. He had to do that. He had to start slowing them down. His backup is Max, who's now going into, finding the challengers to see who he can bring into the fight. And I love just how it's, again, Wally's like, I'm going to do this, and, Max is, doing his thing. But while this is all going on, we do have, Wally West hit stick and move, scrambling, doing what he can do to slow down, to maybe, give, some time so that, the world doesn't get completely messed up. I love seeing Wally just, again, the Jackie Chan, of the DC universe is the Flash team, because it's a lot of stick and move, scramble, bob and weave kind of stuff. I love that.
The stuff with XS was really good.
Yeah.
Seeing how that plays out, because again, Darkseid looks at everybody as really, it's almost like toys he's playing with. And he will sacrifice any one of them to accomplish his goals, which is one of the areas where, like, what is with this constant devotion to this lunatic? Because it's not like, I can see people that make the turn, like, let's use the Neron story, which we're going to get to, right? I can see people saying, well, geez, if I side with Neron, maybe I'll live forever or something like that. I get the motivation there. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not justifying it, but you at least understand it. This guy is going to sacrifice you at some point.
Yes.
Like, your odds are really high that he not only will sacrifice you, but everyone you love at the same time. What is with the blind loyalty to this? I don't get.
Yeah.
And I get if you're raised that way and this is all you've ever known, which is what's happening here. But even so, you think like maybe like one or two of your friends being wiped out this way might make you go, well, when's it going to be me?
Yeah. Yeah. And part of it, I do understand. Like, I agree with you. There's always times I'm like, why are people so loyal to him?
Yes.
But I do love when they do give you kind of glimpses of it.
Right.
Like, for example, in this issue, when Darkseid's explaining to the Legion what his plan is with Bart,
yeah,
and how he knew Bart would run into the past, would try to save Barry, but by saving Barry, he would sacrifice himself, not stop the event. So just that level of intelligence, that level of planning, I can see people saying, wow, Darkseid really does know everything. I don't want to cross him. And it adds to the fear and the reverence that they have for him, that he's playing on such a different level. And now granted, seeing people get disintegrated and just sucks the energy out of them and just destroys them for his own good, is also something that makes you go, why are you doing this, dude? But I understand it. It is. I love the fact that I can still say, why are you doing this, but understand it. It's one of the issues, like with whoever joins the Joker's crew. I never understood why someone would join the Joker's crew. I still to this day don't understand why someone would join the Joker's crew. I can see Penguin's crew. I can see Two-Face. I can understand why someone would go with them. It'd be still dangerous to be part of that team, because with Two-Face, you're a coin flip away from being shot. From the Penguin, if you do a slightly a sideways glance, he could misinterpret it and kill you. But I could understand
what I think overall, that I think if there is an opportunity, I think with Penguin in particular.
Yeah.
I think the Penguin is one where you can make a justification of, hey, the Penguin, if you're an earner, and you've got loose morals, you could survive, you could make money, you could do all those type of pieces. I get all of that. I really, really, I'm not justifying it, but I really understand how you wind up there. I don't, in this case, I don't get it.
No. And it's a brilliant story that they're doing. And I love how, again, she's like, when she sucks him into the energy, because he needs the energy. She failed him. She's not fast enough. Done. And I love the fact that Wally jumps on his back. The power levels this guy has,
Yeah.
And Wally is still not giving up, and even when, Lightning Lad hits him and all that, and they're sitting there blasting him with everything, he's still not throwing. He's still not giving up, and even to the point where he sees what's going on with Bart in the past. I love the fact that he's like, this could be suicide, but Bart wouldn't think twice. And I love the fact that Wally is pulling a lesson from Bart here and actually just going for it,
Yeah, and that part is all really interesting to me. The robot and everything that happens with the robot, I thought was really fantastic as well, and how it all played out. I thought they did a really good job there. It is the Barry's death in Crisis where you see him dissipate.
Yeah.
It's always awe-inspiring for me. I have the Absolute Edition of Crisis. I believe you have it too.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the way to read Crisis. But I really love in the Absolute Edition just seeing that oversized artwork and just seeing because it's very heroic.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they've never, yes, Barry's back, but they never really undid that storyline. And when they brought Barry back, it was a long time before they really brought Barry back. Like they toyed around with it for a while, and as you can in little arcs where is it Barry, is it not Barry, that type of thing. But the actual real return of Barry Allen took many, many years. And I'm glad that it took that long because I feel like Death and Return should be the same thing. You mentioned Alfred earlier. Death, if you're going to do it just for shock value, and you're not going to pay it off with any form of long-term storytelling, don't do it. Why take the toys out of the sandbox? But if you're going to do what they've done with Alfred, like the struggle right now is you sit there and go, I want Alfred back too, but yet I love how they use it.
Yeah.
So I'm in that yin and the yang of, but oh my gosh, the storytelling is so good. Barry Allen, they did great storytelling spinning out of his death. Wally is who he is as a character now, so well developed because of the death of Barry Allen. When they brought Barry Allen back, look how much story we got with Barry Allen when he came back.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's all been
and we're
so
still getting
good.
story from it.
Yes.
We're still getting story from it.
But years of storyline when they brought him back. It was not shallow. They brought him back for a purpose, and they did something with it. I feel like it's okay to bring back a character you killed off if you got a plan and do something with it. And it's okay if those plans shift down the road like we've shifted back to Wally right now. I get that. We're good. But they gave us so many years of Barry as the headliner spinning out of that it really, really worked. Seeing him again here now is just so good. And I loved the Bart piece.
Yes.
It's the moments in the Speed Force where Bart got to see, we added like an epilogue to Crisis.
Yes.
He goes into the Speed Force and goes and hugs his grandfather and says, I'm proud to be an Allen. You don't see these moments from Bart very often because he's Bart. Yeah. When you see them, they mean more. And, for him to slow down, because that's him slowing down in a moment, and having a moment with his grandfather was so awesome. That was very well written. The artwork was beautiful on that. I loved seeing Bart come in there as the Speed Force energy. That was really, really great.
Yes. Oh, big time. And again, just the wrap up of everything. Mm-hmm. Now that they got this done, now they got this thing, it's time to get the timeline squared away. And they're able to get everything squared away. Max goes back to the past. Barry gets hit by the lightning. He becomes thing. And I love this ending where it is showing, Wally and Bart together.
Yeah.
Running into the future, and just running into the whole shebang at the ending of, DCKO. I love this. And again, I love how each of these issues have always ended. DCKO concludes, in DCKO 5 next month, and then they start saying a new era begins, and with all the titles, they're talking about this new growth out of DC. And that's something I'm really looking forward to.
3 books we just read that handled this very differently, but all doing the same thing, setting the stage for the fact that next issue is going to be a new arc, a new setting, a new start. Aquaman, obviously so much of the story was building towards this new arc that we have a better idea of where we're starting to go with Aquaman, right? Titans, kind of in the middle of that. these two books, where it's laying out the fact that we're getting a new team, or at least it looks like a new team. And what does that team, if there is a new team, what does it look like? What is the makeup, and what happens with the current Titans? And by the way, I want to be clear. I don't know the answer to that. Like, I know I've seen what the next issue, like the cover, what it looks like, but there's a lot of questions I have still spinning off of that, which is great. That's where you want to be right now. The Flash, this does not tell us anything about the next arc. And I like that. I like that it didn't feel beholden to do that. I felt like all three of these books handled this really, really well. And I'm glad that it didn't feel like we read like all three books had to have okay, we're wrapping up the DCKO. We're setting up where the new book's going. Then we're doing this. I felt like that would have gotten very monotonous very fast. Whereas these all felt fresh and fun, and they did what they did in the service of the story that they're currently telling versus force-feeding us something that awkwardly does not belong. Flash, if you did anything other than wrap up this story, though, there was no page count available to set up the next arc.
Right.
This needed to be wrapped up with a nice, clean bow to leave a clean slate for the next arc. And this did every bit of that. And I liked that it felt very different than the other two books. Good, great way to handle this.
Yes.
Oh, no, you don't!
Next discussion is Justice League Unlimited number 16. Mark Waid is the writer, Dan Mora is the artist, Tamra Bonvillain on colors, Ariana Mayer on letters. The covers by Dan Mora, the variant covers are Bruno Redondo, Kathy Kwan, Dan Hipp, and John Jiang. The Black History Month variant cover is by Taurin Clark. The Valentine's Day variant cover by Chrissy Zulo Uminga. Marquise Draper is the associate editor. Paul Kaminsky is the editor. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And apologies for any name butchery. This storyline, this Terrific 10 storyline, has been a blockbuster. I was excited about, I thought like the Terrific 10 originally when they announced the concept, like, are they doing a miniseries with this? Because I wasn't thinking like this is going to take over the Justice League book. Yeah. But there's a reason why a lot of your heavy hitters are statues. So this makes a ton of sense what they're doing here. I love where this goes because it brings back in the whole airwave thing. It brings back in Neuron and this concept of morality, right? Like, what would you do? And that part, as I think it's just a real victory lap of this one, has been that this series, you could have done a side story or a backstory or something and not tied this directly into DC. This works so much better that it's telling us what is going on with the rest of the league and giving you a sense of scale with the league. And I love the spotlight, really the spotlight on not just Mr. Terrific, but all of the players in this. This one's really, really good.
They've done a great job with, again, on Earth, with the villains that were supercharged by Neuron, kind of giving us an understanding as to why they're doing what they're doing. The heroes that are left, there's anybody they can get, they're scrambling, and, you mentioned Airwave, but again, he's really a young hero, and he's thrown into the lion's den right here. And he's, it's a hero gut check kind of thing. It's the nature of who a person is. Are they a hero or are they just somebody with powers? There's a dramatic difference between the two of that, and we're seeing what the heroes do. And I do love in this issue, we get to see the villains are saying, hey, guys, you're going to lose. You're the underdogs here. This is a chance for us to continue living, join us, and the hero's like, no, that's not an option. That's not even consideration for us because this is who we are. And it's the nature of the hero. In outside of comic books, in the real world, there's stories of people who do these heroic acts that you're like, oh my God, and firefighters who run into a burning building, police who are in the middle of, while under fire, they're protecting, serving, getting people out. Military, same deal, going into a combat zone, they're under fire and they continue, you hold your ground, and, you run under fire, pulling somebody out, getting shot at, and there's just so many stories of these heroics of regular everyday people that I love seeing, that we get these lesser known heroes, lesser known characters showing, yes, I am a hero. No, I'm not Superman. I'm not Batman. I'm not a Trinity. I don't have a Green Lantern ring, but I'm still a hero.
Yeah.
I'm going to, gut check, and I'm going to show you what it means to be a hero. And that's something that I love about this book, especially this final issue. They're really bringing it home. We've had some great moments in Hell of the Terrific 10 sacrificing themselves, for, to keep moving the mission forward, and you get those are, again, some true heroic moments. But I love this combat that's going on Earth right now. These heroes are completely outgunned, but they're not laying down. They're not quitting. No matter what happens, they're going to keep fighting. And I love that.
The Owl Woman sequence is just absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
Because she's sitting here saying, listen, you threw, and her justifications sound, you threw before me that I'm just a remnant. I'm not even from your universe. So I don't have these links to all of you. You guys are, all, tight because of the fact that, you're part of the same universe and all that. I mean, have that. You're telling me that it doesn't matter, that I'm just a remnant. I want to live. I'm sentient. I'm conscious. I want to live. Why? He's offering me the opportunity to do that. Why wouldn't I do this? And her reasoning on this is sound. We've talked about this along the way. What point in time do the remnants start having some feelings about this? And I love that it went there because it makes sense. And I love this storyline. I don't disagree with her. And I don't think that, the thing I love about it is, this does not make her inherently evil because she's saying this. It means that she has feelings. And it's okay to have the balance of, you care about yourself too. And you care about life and living that life. I'm sitting there. I'm not thinking like she's this evil, terrible, bad person, but obviously she turns on Michael, and that's one where I'm like, okay, now Houston, now we are starting to have a problem.
Yeah, now we have an issue here. And like you mentioned before, when we were talking about Donna Troy telling Grail, no, I'm not going to join you. Not instead of doing the I'll pretend to be on your side,
Right.
No, same deal here. I love the fact that she's sitting there. This wasn't I'm going to do this and, with a plan to double cross Neron. No, she flat out was like, even before they went down to Hell, she went to the trophy room, got the candle, and contacted Neron. Even before they left. Once she found out what the mission was, when everybody else was having those one final moments on Earth, which was a great issue, which was a great, part of this story. I loved, seeing the remnant guy trying to get back with, with fire and all that kind of neat stuff. This was what she did with that time, and we never saw what she did.
Yeah.
This was what she was doing. She was going and she was contacting Neron. So even before this began, she was always going to be the one to betray him. But I love the fact that...
I like that she... Wait, I apologize. I want to key in on something that you said there. She sought him out.
Yeah.
Which usually, it's like the manipulation Neron did all this and that and the other thing. No, she sought him out.
Yes.
That, I really loved that twist of all this because I think it's a different sort of take. Really well done.
Oh, big time. And again, I love the deal that Neron said wanted her to be the eyes and ears. He didn't have anything in the deal, from what I can tell, about betraying and double crossing them. She was, and again, that was a good way to write him, in that's something that a hero would give up.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, he wasn't telling me to betray you. He wasn't telling me to think. I was just providing it for intel. That's all I was doing.
Until.
Until.
Yeah.
Until he told her, you've got to do this now. You want to stay alive, you got to do this. But the initial thing, again, it's the road to hell is paved with good intentions a lot of times. The devil knows how to, they know how to trick you into thinking, oh, it's just this. It's just this. It's just this little thing. It's nothing big. It's nothing. The next thing you know, it's just one little step. Next thing you know, you turn around and you've traveled a couple miles. You're on that one little step. And I love just how they played this out, how they did that. And again, it's brilliant writing, on all of these characters' parts. Throughout this, we've gotten some great hero moments. We've got some great sacrifice, but we're also getting some great villain stuff. I really did dig this story that we're playing out here because, again, I love, because we were thinking maybe that Michael was a remnant, that Mr. Terrific was a remnant. Oh, no, he wasn't. He was 100% going to sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
But he was planning a swerve.
Yeah. Well,
and Nero knew it.
He was going to die, but he was going to get everybody released.
Right.
He was going to get the souls released, and get save the day and then sacrifice himself.
Right.
He had that backup plan, bomb planted on his heart. Yeah. I was like, dang, that is,
And I like that she saw that.
Yeah.
She got to see that too, which is an interesting sort of piece of this. And then she sees the inspiration from the other heroes.
Yeah.
She shows up back there and she's supposed to be helping, in Neron in his case, but instead she's seeing here, why are they still fighting?
Yeah.
Don't they realize they're the underdogs here? And they clearly are. When we take a look at what's going on here, they clearly are the underdogs, but they're not stopping. And I love that it's overwhelming. We got some heavy hitters out there, especially with Mary Marvel being on the field.
Yes.
But they're still, and John, so you got Martian Manhunter and Mary Marvel there, and they're still the underdogs, and they are. I love that sense of seeing what's going on the field, and yet they won't quit. And I just loved the way that this played out, and her having to observe what they're doing and really examine her own conscience, because it goes back to survival in and of itself, and trying to find a way to survive doesn't make you evil. She made a bad choice and a bad decision to try and continue living in the deal that she made with Neron because she betrayed them. But in the end, there's a difference between making a bad choice and having a bad side to yourself than being a truly evil person. And it goes back to the Tara argument, right? Woman, you can make a similar argument to Tara in what she's doing here. So is there redemption for her? And I think so, yes. In what happened in this storyline, I think we saw her redeem herself at a time where she completely waylaid Neron's plans in what she did when she took that moment in time to take the stand, to stand against Darkseid, to stand against Neron, and what she did there. I love how that played out with her, where she destroyed the only opportunity they had.
Yeah. She just destroyed the soul vessel, whatever it's technically called. The thing that was gathering all the people's souls in there that was going to get transmitted to Neron.
Right.
She blasted it, and she released all the souls back into the people.
Loved it.
I love the fact that, again, we get that hero arc. But even before that, I do love the fact that, the heroes are like, what are you guys doing? This is ridiculous. And even, Mary Marvel had the great line, for God's sake, listen to yourself. Who do you trust more, us or the devil? And it's kind of goes back to that arguments we had about why would you trust Darkseid? Why would you be so loyal to Darkseid? Well, why are you being so loyal to Neron? They do have an escape plan for these people. Yeah, they can't get them refugee anymore, but guess what? There's the Phantom Zone. They can escape to the Phantom Zone, and let the heroes save the day and then get released from the Phantom Zone. I love the fact that, the heroes are like, hey, and they're in the middle.
But don't they all have to escape that way too? Like at this point in time, they're in a situation where it's not just the villains. Right. The heroes have to escape the same way.
That's the only escape plan right now. They can't get off of Earth anymore because of everything that's been shut down.
Yeah.
So the Phantom Zone is the only way they're going to get out of there. And I do love the fact that the heroes are throwing that out there. And again, we're in the middle of a firefight between these guys. This is before, Owlwoman destroys the vessel.
Yeah.
And they're still They're being heroes. They're trying to do the right thing by these villains who are trying to kill them. Flat out. And I love just these moments where you get this and you start seeing the villains are starting to respond. And it was great writing in that we're seeing these villains are starting to respond. And you see Owl Woman, and I'm like, oh, is she going to attack? No, you flip the page and you see her destroy the vessel. Great layout on how they did this with the heroes talking, and they even show the look on her face, kind of make it, because I don't know about you. When I first read this, I was like, oh, is she going to attack and stop? Because you had the heroes and the villains had stopped fighting. They're having a kind of a moment where the villains were listening to the heroes. I'm like, is she going to stop that? No, she further added to it. She destroyed the vessel. I love that.
Then she did the round 2 where she said, I need to be sent back, because she then wanted to rescue Michael.
Yeah.
And I love that, the line from Neuron, you ungrateful cow, we had a deal. Oh, I monitored the League. I saw them. I heard them. And I finally understood. I love that she freed Michael and saved him. And in the end, I love Michael's answer, really, when you mentioned the fact that there was a traitor in the mist and things like that. Which one? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was just such a great arc. And I love that he let her just die a hero. Her legacy is going to be that she died a hero, and that's it. We don't need to talk about the betrayal, don't need to talk about who betrayed. That's going to sit with him. I have a funny feeling he's never going to tell anybody.
No. What happened? No, it's classified.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, what happened. She died because she saved him from hell.
Yeah.
She destroyed the vessel and then saved him from hell. That's how she died. And that's in the story going to play out.
Yeah.
And again, I loved how this played out. Was absolutely outstanding. And again, just I love that, Atomic Skull is going to Airwave. And again, Airwave is a character I want to keep seeing more of because I love this kid, and he's like, you do this, you show us mercy. Without mercy, we have nothing, Mr. Skull. I love this kid, and I'm so glad he's around, and I hope they continue using him, and again, I hope they continue using with this Justice League lineup where they can pull different people in, and they keep doing this where we have these other characters that I have no idea who they are, but let's see them go. I love this. I love this layout.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. I feel like this has just been a really great layout, a really great lineup. I want to see more Airwave. I want to see more everybody. I think that's where I think Mark Waid shines, is when he's able to take, if you read the entire new history of the DC universe.
I have not read the whole thing yet.
Okay. So it's really, really strong.
Yeah.
And Mark Waid just has this passionate love of DC history and the idea of trying to put all of this, like a new history of the DC universe together with all of the changes happen, while at the same time honoring the past legacy, has been an interesting task that he's put himself to. And he's done a great job with it. But I feel like this also informs his writing. And when you take a look at what he did in the Flash story, what he's done in Justice League here, he's brought in a lot of elements and brought them together, gave the challengers a really good spotlight moment in the Flash, gave a number of really strong variations of Justice League characters, amalgamations of them, like Owlwoman and things like that, and brought them in and given them some spotlight time. I wanted to see the Terrific 10 be an ongoing. I liked it so much.
Me too. And again, I understand why they did what they did.
Me too.
I did want to, I kind of, when we went into this, we both said none of them are going to survive. We both were saying that, but we both wanted more of it. We wanted them to survive. We wanted to continue the adventures.
It was DC's Dirty Dozen. I mean, we knew that.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. Another title I'm excited to see what's the aftermath.
Yep.
Because again,
what happens with these villains?
What happens with these villains? Exactly. Because some of them are like Atomic Skull there. I think they got a shot at, redemption for him.
Love it.
And he could be like, hey, I messed up. let me help out. What can I do? And we may get a redemption arc with the Atomic Skull. I could see someone back. Airwave as a kid, I could see him saying, "No, let's give him a shot, guys." If everything was crazy back then, let's see what we got going on here. And I would love to see, these villains, these characters again continuing. What's the aftermath of this event? What's the aftermath of DCKO with the Justice League? They've got so much stuff they can do. I am so excited to see where this goes out next, man.
Superman 35.
Yes.
The writer is Joshua Williamson. Artist, Eddie Barrows, Eber Fiera. It's Ferreiri. I know I am butchering that one. Julio Ferreiri. Colorist is Alejandro Sanchez. Letterer is Ariana Mayer. Cover artist is Dan Mora. Variant cover artist Gilla March, Rod Rice, David Paratore, Chris Stevens. Valentine's Day variant cover artist Chrissy Zulo Uminga. Assistant editors Julian Grant. The editors Paul Kaminsky. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Superboy created by Jerry Siegel. By special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. Apologies for name butchery. This book is easily, for me, top 5 every single month. It may be top 3. I jump to Superman when it's released now. This is a creative team that is nailing this. I'm a Batman guy. I want to be very, very clear. So, and Batman and the Flash, I'm going to be honest with you, so you're talking about two characters who I tend to jump to right away. It's Batman and the Flash as they come out. Then Aquaman. This book has forced itself into that conversation where it's like, what do I read first when this book is on the shelf? This is a great time to be a Superman fan. I'm not diminishing at all the great storytelling that's going on over in Action Comics right now, because equally gush-worthy conversation, but there's something about this book that its writing, its arc, it's Joshua Williamson is just nailing this with Superman right now. You're a Superman guy. You got to be loving this. And wait, Superboy Prime or Superman Prime, whatever we call him, Prime. More Prime.
Okay, all I'm going to do is, oh, my brother, testify. I am, yes, going along. And it's one of the hardest things that we've had with how we're covering DC. I had to hold off. I couldn't read it because, I wasn't getting ahead. So when for anybody who doesn't realize, Cleveland had a massive windstorm that came through. I was without a power for almost 6 days. So we could not record. So we missed a recording. So we combined everything into this one. So I had the 3 issues that we were going to record last week, and I had these 3 issues right now, and I'm like, I had to sit on them. I couldn't read them because I'm not reading the issues until after we do the show. And I was just sitting there like, do I want to read this? It's sitting right there, and I couldn't. And as soon as you're like, hey, why don't we combine them? I'm like, yes. And as we were talking,
for the same reason, by the way, there's 2 reasons. I wanted to combine them because I knew that we did not plan this. DCKO was wrapping up neatly at our 20th anniversary, which we're releasing this on the 23rd, which is effectively our 20th anniversary of the podcast. It just, sometimes things are happy accidents. It was like what happened with the Red Hood issue, right?
Yeah.
It came out at 800, and what would we want to do at that time? Red Hood versus the Joker? Yeah, I kind of want to talk about that. Wrapping up DC wound up being a nice anniversary episode because of the fact that we just wanted to do it. We thought we were wrapping up the last 3 issues for our 20th anniversary. Then this happened, and it was bothering me. I was like, but I wanted to wrap this up for the 20th.
I know.
And then it became, to your point, the predominant thing was, and I want to read these because I don't want to wait now an additional week, because that's what would have happened. Because so deliberately, we're not doing and I know it happens, and I don't want to tell you what's going to happen. We have stuck to the hard, fast rule of we are reading these as we are recording them, in preparation for that particular recording. So we don't have a lot of foreknowledge. So that way any of our speculation is just wacky speculation. And also, we're not spoiling anything for our listeners. So this was a joy to kind of just do 6 issues of this and kind of wrap it. Yeah. Like, this was the farthest thing from a chore. This was a need.
Dude, man, I'll tell you, everything you said about how Superman's jumped to first, yes. I am loving this story.
Look at this cover.
I am so looking forward to the future of this one. This, again, and it's a common thing we've said with each one of these issues that we're talking about is I'm so looking forward to the next issue.
Yes.
So looking forward to the next issue. 100% on Superman.
Look at this cover.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. The end is nigh. Brilliant. Again, plain white cover, Superman sprawled out dead at the feet of the time trapper Doomsday. I'm like, yes. This is cool. This, again, leads you to what the heck is up? What's going on here? And one of the neat things I'm loving about about Superman title is that there's so many characters in the Superman family that we don't need to have. We have the one fight month where it was mostly about Superman fighting, but we didn't need that. We have got Lois. We've got Superboy Prime, going on. We've got our Robo Superman in here. We've got, Time Trapper Doomsday. We've got all types of stuff that they can pull into this story arc. And what do we need to go with it? It's kind of throwing back in my head what they were doing with Aquaman, where they had the Aquaman family going through that whole story. And you didn't need Arthur on every single page because there was such a solid team family for him to deal with. So, yes, and they did the same thing on Superman here. I love this story, loved how this played out, and I'm so pumped and excited for issue number 36 because I want to see what's next.
Yeah, same with me. Well, I have a funny feeling like issue 36 is going to be kicking off a new arc that we're going to eventually be doing on the show.
Probably.
Just because I feel like where this is going, it's pretty solid where it's going. It's funny, as we flip the page after that amazing cover, we do see the ad for Batman number 7. Have you read that yet?
I have not.
Okay. No spoilers. It's great. It's so good. That's another arc. It's kicking off a new arc. We're probably going to do that arc. I'm just saying.
Hey, great tease for it.
Yeah. Oh,
the Joker is back. Done. Okay, I'm in.
yeah, but I mean, they get the gatefold sequence they're talking about. It's all like, ooh. I'm going to leave it at that. But this part's really good. As we get into this issue, I love that we're setting the stage for the relationship between Doomsday and Superman. Whether it's Time Trapper or otherwise, this has been a death-related relationship. Everything has been death and destruction. And I love that part is, as much as I hate to admit it, I need Superman. I love Time Trapper, is at that point, but he's gone, fighting in a tournament to save us all. And now I find my last hope is a breed of Superman I did not expect. And Prime's outfit in this, what I love about it is kind of what I was talking about with Wally's suit. I love the darker shade. The reason why is it looks wicked cool. It's not something I want to see on our Superman. I do want to see it on him. That outfit really works. I want a statue of it. I want an action figure of it. I love the color shading and tone. Everything about it just works really well. It looks good, even battle damaged. This journey of this character runs in 2 categories for me. I'm either intrigued by him or I'm annoyed by him. This is a different level. I've never had a third category with him. He's wicked awesome in this. Superboy Prime, more, please.
Yeah, I know. And I'll tell you, everything you're saying about, with him, I agree with you completely. I remember when I was first reading some stuff from him, he's kind of like, how when I first was reading some Guy Gardner, I wanted to throat punch him. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Superboy Prime. I wanted to throat punch him, just because it annoyed me. Now I'm like, oh God, no. I love this character.
Yeah.
And again, when and going back to when we first talked about when they first introduced him, I literally cheered out loud. That was an honest, like, woohoo kind of moment when you flipped the page and you saw that first time it was Superboy Prime. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Prime. He is going to be great in this series. And he 100% was absolutely brilliant. The usage of Prime in this series was 100% just, amazing. I loved his usage throughout this. And in this issue was, again, another great wrap up of who Prime is.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the fact
and
that
who Prime is now. Who Prime is now. I'm sorry.
Yes, 100%. This is acknowledging who Prime was before.
Mm-hmm.
It's acknowledging his growth, and it's now showing us who Prime can be in the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited on how they handled him.
Yeah, because before, with the areas where he was annoying, and it's supposed to be, he was whiny. It was, I'm the victim, and I'm going to destroy your world because I was the victim, and all of that kind of stuff. And it was, don't get me wrong, really good use of him storytelling-wise then, but I wanted to see everybody and their uncle punch him.
Yes.
I wanted to punch him.
Yeah.
I wanted to break the, here's the thing, he's talking to us through the fourth wall, I want to punch him. You go ahead and talk, boom. It's, I want to give you a fourth wall punch. I'm pretty sure I can. And I love that in this, when he talks to us, I actually want to talk, like, get right on, brother. You keep going.
I want to give him a high five.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving everything about him right now.
They 100% need a page where he's doing a high five through the fourth wall, just so I can high five him. We need to have that.
The other MVP of this issue is Superman Robot.
Yes.
I really love the use of Superman Robot. And what's great about that is setting the stage for what these robots were intended to be, how they have Superman's morality, questions and concerns about, are they ready for prime time from Superman? No pun intended. And I love, and it really was no pun intended. I'm like, I should clarify that. But, I really like the way that these characters, this particular robot has played out in the field, where you're like, what is this robot going to do? What does that look like when there's emotional situations in there? How equipped is it to handle this? This issue was a great shining moment for Superman Robot. I love that Lois was mad that the robot was destroyed when it happened. I know I'm jumping ahead in that piece because I cared. Like Lois cared, I cared. So running along with Lois and going, yeah, you go, girl. I'm 100% right with you on that one. Like Superman Robot should not be destroyed right now. What are you people doing? Leave this robot alone. I felt like the robots in my childhood, the robot from Lost in Space and stuff like that. Some of my favorite robots, Twiggy from Buck Rogers. I'm very protective of this robot in a very, very similar way. And that's hard to put together in the short order that they've done it with this. What a great backstory. I never felt like this effect. I've always dug the concept of Superman having robots. Now they made me care about them.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Especially this robot. I loved how, when they first introduced him, a couple issues ago, there is talking about how there was one who actually thought he was Superman.
Yes.
And it's this guy. And he has Superman's morals. He has his code that he lived by. And I loved seeing that. And as this is played out with him, where he keeps making sacrifices, but that's what Superman would do.
Data in Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. Dude, this was absolutely brilliant. And one of the other, again, the hero of this story for me is also Lois Lane. Come on, dude. Not only just because she's got her powers and she's fighting thing, but she's Lois frickin' Lane. I've said 1,000 times, I'll probably say 1,000 more times. Why would this man with godlike powers be in love with this mere mortal? Because she is Lois Lane. And right here, we see why she is so awesome. It's not just about, having powers. And it's not just about fighting and having the gut check of a true hero. She's able to use Saturn Girl's powers against her.
Yes.
Why? Because she's got that intelligence, because she has that mental discipline. Not a lot of characters could have pulled that off. Lois Lane can, because she's mentally that strong. And I loved seeing her use, Saturn Girl's powers against her. That was absolutely brilliant. Again, it was another moment when I stopped reading and I cheered. Because they've so got this character down right.
Yeah. And Saturn Girl with her and the whole layout of, I love the beauty of the layout of what was happening in DCKO. It was great to see this art team tackle all of that. We've seen these events play out, but seeing it from that perspective, told from the story arc of Saturn Girl, that all really worked well for me in this. It's, again, this is a great creative team. Eddie Barrows is somebody who we've talked about for years now, and seeing him on this book just adds that flagship feel. And this feels like absolutely a flagship title.
Oh God, yeah, definitely, 100%. And the beauty and chaos of the tournament,
yes,
captured really in just this one page. It was epic. Again, I loved a couple, and it wasn't just focusing on Superman, but it does end with Superman down, but they do have that confrontation between Batman and Joker. They show the absolutes, the absolute Trinity, and they show the Trinity there. They show Lex, who did a great job capturing all of this information.
Mm-hmm.
They even showed a bit about how, Darkseid was Booster Gold in the upper portion.
Yeah.
They did, again, absolutely loved how this played out. And then you get the page flip. And I love the fact that there's tears in Lois's eyes. It doesn't take away anything from how cool and how badass Lois Lane is that she would have those tears. But again, it does show the mental toughness of her, that she's like, yeah, I'm not done yet. I'm not down. Even if he's down, even if Clark is down, I'm not yet. I'm going to take you down. And I love the fact that Lois, again, it's a gut check time, all you believe, it's like, and I love the fact that, she, again, Saturn Girl's trying to use this belief, this trust that she had in her husband, in Superman against her. And all it does is further strengthen Lois. That is what it is. And I love that.
And you think you understand us. You don't. But I think maybe I understand you. I love what Lois did there.
Yes.
Lois is like, I'm not going to beat her physically because of the fact that she can predict, and not predict, she can see everything I'm going to do before I do it. So Lois took that information and let her in. Like, okay, you want to see everything, that's fine. But she let her in so deep that now she was able to see Saturn Girl's side of it. I don't know. Kind of connect with this, don't you? Let's talk about your side of things. I love what Lois did there.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that is so brilliant. Again, showing that Lois Lane, this is not her first rodeo. And the investigative reporter with that mental time set, let's learn a little bit about you. You want to know about me? Guess what? You think you're the first person I've told about me and use that as a gateway to get in? Honey, here you go.
Yes.
So strong, so good.
And here's the thing. I loved how, and this does trigger how the Dark Legion betrays Doomsday, betrays Darkseid. And we talked about last time about how we thought, maybe they were going to betray him, how they were going to do it. They kind of betray him, but they don't. And it's one of those neat things on why, last we were talking about why would someone follow Darkseid? Why wouldn't they just say, forget you? Well, there is that fear, but here's a way that you can do it. They ran and hid, and I do love how they did this and how this was the opening that Saturn Girl needed. Get that moment where Darkseid is not in her head anymore, and she can start thinking for herself, and she can start doing some rationalization as to what she wants in her life, not what Darkseid wants. And I thought that for me was a great moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was absolutely a terrific moment, and it pays off when we start seeing Prime go after the man she loves.
Yeah.
And I loved that sequence. And we're seeing a very different Prime in that sequence, because Prime could have killed him there. And I love, you're lucky I'm not that guy anymore.
Yeah.
And Prime acknowledging that I'm evolving. I'm becoming somebody different. But the flavor was different. The approach was different. He came in as bad cop and a believable bad cop.
Yes. And again, the old Prime of old would have snapped his neck, gone after her, snapped her neck, and then gone after the other one and snapped his neck.
Right.
That's Prime of old.
Yes.
And I love the fact that this Prime doesn't do that. I love that we get, again, this growth and this evolution of who this guy is. 100%. I was like, yes. Again, so many moments when you cheer, for these people. Whether I'm cheering for Lois, whether I'm cheering for Prime, whether I'm even cheering for the Evil Legion,
I'm going to pause here for 1 second and say something. If you're listening to this and you have not read this issue, spoiler time, you really should stop here, go read this issue, and come back.
Yes.
Because this is setting the stage for DCKO 5. And if you have not read this issue and you don't want to have that ruined, do yourself a favor and read this. If you're like, I'm not reading into the tie-ins, Superman 35 is a must-read for DCKO. I feel that this is prologue material to DCKO 5.
Agree.
End of warning, because we're going to talk now about what happens with the projector that is Superman robot and seeing Lara. Now all this historical piece comes into play and basically saying, you think you're just an engine of destruction. You're not. You're the alpha and the omega. You are the omega and the alpha. There's two pieces here. You have an opportunity here to be the start of life. Because of the fact that you die and resurrect, you can be born over and over again. This is an opportunity to help rebuild something here. What we're seeing here, Jim, is unfolding the end game that we saw coming from the beginning of this.
Yes.
It isn't Lex Luthor who won.
I love that.
Yes, and I loved how this went because I didn't see it coming. I didn't see Time Trapper. I saw him doing a turn and being another villain in the story. I did not see him being the angel that lights the path for Superman to be the ultimate victor in this.
Yes. Dude, and I'll tell you, when Robot Superman sacrifices himself there, he, mission is accomplished. He just delivered the message to Time Trapper, and he, just fades off. When you see the real Superman, tell him. I was like, oh man, that is awesome. Again, this robot gave him a good ending.
And it was important to tell him, I did what Superman would do.
I did what Superman would do, yes.
Which Superman was questioning what these robots would do in these type of situations. We got the answer. How cool was that? That's what, as I said, it's a Data Star Trek moment, isn't it? I mean, it's like, this is stuff that I geek out about this stuff with robots. When they have these sentient robots and they do cool stuff like this.
Now,
Battlestar, did you watch the newer Battlestar Galactica?
I've never seen it.
So it explored stuff like this too. It's all just way cool.
I never saw it, but it was one of those things where I was like, I should watch it. I think I'd like that.
Put it on your list. It's a good binge watch show, as far as just grabbing a few episodes here, a few episodes there to kind of it's good storytelling, really good storytelling. It's him realizing that if Superman's really fallen, it's time that I face Darkseid myself, no matter how large his army is. And he's like, I have just enough power left for one last life. Now, it sets the stage for, is he going to, his ultimate end game was to resurrect himself one more time for the power. Love where this goes. It's why I feel that this is essential must reading. This also sets the stage, though, but wait, there's more. When I flipped the page, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought this was like another preview. You're like, what book is this a preview for? And I'm like, oh, wait, I need to read this right now. This is not a preview for anything except where this book's going. This is, basically post DCKO or setting up for post them trying to reconnect with family members where they're at. Lois is looking for Jonathan and Martha because she needs them for Prime.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I need you to mentor and counsel somebody in a way that I can't necessarily counsel the same way that you can. I love that she brought the two of them in, especially with what's going on in Action. I'm assuming you're caught up on Action Comics.
Yes.
So the Superboy story that's going on in Action Comics, I don't know, man. I'm seeking these two out for the exact reason she's thinking.
Big time. And again, anytime you give me Ma and Pa Kent, I'm 100% in on it. And I love the fact that these aren't the parents of Superman. Because again, the secret identity is secret. These are just two good, solid people who step up naturally. There are some people who step up naturally. Some people you have to say, hey, we need you to do this. You know, Jonathan and Martha Kent are people who step up naturally. You know, so I was like, you know what? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ma and Pa Kent.
But they are the parents of Superman in this particular scenario, too, on top of adding another. I'm sorry, and I want to be clear. That sounds like I'm contradicting you. I'm not. I'm adding another layer onto what you're saying. So, yes, foundationally, yes, checkbox to everything you just said. But now we've added the twist of, but yet this is a version of Superman-ish.
Yeah.
Which adds a whole other twist to this whole thing. They've dealt with a clone before. This is a little bit of a different flavor, though. This is the kid that never was.
This is the kid who never had Ma and Pa Kent raising him.
Right.
You know, this is the kid who, you know, who's gone through a lot of transitions, who could use their mentorship. And again, I love that the next series is called The Reign of Superboys.
Yeah.
So 100% that means we're getting more Prime. So yes, thank you.
Well, we have to because of where we leave Soups, which I think we need to jump into
number 5.
Talking about in DCKO number 5. This has been quite the journey, you know, to get here to chapter 5, and it's chapter 5 of DCKO is the King Omega. Scott Snyder is the writer. Joshua Williamson is the writer on the interlude Coda. Javier Fernandez is the artist. Zermanico is the artist on the interlude, pages 28 to 31. Wes Craig is the artist on the Coda. We got Alejandro Sanchez on colors. Hassan Atsmain, it's Elhaou on letters. Marquise Draper, associate editor. Paul Kaminsky is the editor. The cover is by Javier Fernandez and Alejandro Sanchez. We got variant covers by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer, Jerome Opena, Ian Bertram, and Mike Del Mundo. Face-off variant cover by Ben Oliver. Bracket variant cover by Dan Mora. AEO cameo variant cover by Dan Mora. Darkside variant by Steve Scroce and Dave Stewart. 125 variant by Mahmoud, and it's Mahmud. I didn't have N in there, though it didn't exist. And ASRAR and Alejandro Sanchez. DC All-In Saga, developed by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson. Superman, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Supergirl, based on characters created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And apologies for name butchery along the way there, because this has been a creative team. Again, I'm going to go to the covers right away just because of the fact that I love this whole cover with the DCKO where it kind of hides the cover. Then you get to see the full-blown cover, and it's always wicked cool. The covers for DCKO have been great. I want to say one thing about variant covers. Just kind of in general. I've got a new affinity for them now. What I've been doing with variants is I've been collecting some of them along the way, and I'm not getting as many as I used to because just budget-wise, it's been hard to afford them. But I am seeking out, like, I'm being very when I see a preview of the variant, and I'm like, oh, I love that. Here's what I'm holding on to them for: comic conventions.
Yep,
it's really nice to go and get those signed. And like I said, I'm framing them, and it's beautiful artwork, and it's a great way to get them framed. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous book overall. This storyline opens up with Lex Luthor, where we left him off. And it seems like Lex has completely and utterly won. It was great to read this, reading Superman beforehand, because I walked into this thinking to myself, wait a minute, we got a twist.
Yeah.
and I absolutely loved the fact that I'm like, oh, where is this going to go now? And what does, because the whole Omega and Alpha thing in Superman number 35 opens up the doorway of, oh, what's Time Traveler going to do? Super cool.
Dude, and again, I love Lex is like, yes, I am the champion, the universe champion, Lex Luthor. And just a little bit with him and Darkseid. It's like, yeah, I'm right here, little one. Congratulations. Savor this moment, then take the heart upon yourself, gather your powers, adopt your new form, and fight for your crown. And I loved how, as they're doing this thing, and fight for your crown ends on the panel of Superman.
Yep.
The stone statue of Superman. And I'm like, and again, what we just read from Superman with with Doomsday and all like that's like, hold on, we're going to get, and it's funny, initially I was thinking, we were going to get a tag team from Lex and Superman. I honestly was thinking that. I wasn't thinking where this goes, where, Clark takes over, and I loved that. I love that we got that so much better, especially because we see that night, that game night, was really, because we remember when we kept talking about it, is this what would have happened? What didn't happen? We weren't 100% certain, and we get our answer. It was happening at the same time. This was a little pocket universe created by a time trapper. I loved that. That, again, that was absolutely brilliant.
And he set this all up as a stage so that way he could rebirth Superman.
Yeah.
In this process. Like, so awesome. I love everything about that. Like, I love that. I love surprises where it makes logical sense when you go back. Oh my gosh, I've been reading this all along. They gave me just enough to tease, but not enough that I'm going to know what they're doing here. I loved where this went. I did not see this coming at all.
No, we're both thinking. I know I was that the Doomsday was going to be the turn. He was going to turn on him. No, he saves Superman. He rebirths Superman, gets him back into the fight. And even after reading the last Superman issue before diving into this one, I was honestly thinking this was going to be a tag team, Lex Luthor and Superman. No, it's not. I love that.
But I love the logic of why, because the justification I've had all along as far as why I felt that Superman should be the winner was based on what Superman would do with the ability to reshape the universe.
Yeah.
He would have a moral code, and he would recreate the universe, flaws and all. And I knew that was going to be the case. Time Trapper did too. And now I want to pull back. I didn't see any of this coming. Again, there was a logic as far as what I wanted from my chosen, the person I was backing in the pool on this one. But if you were to say, did I see it coming this way? No, like last issue, I thought, oh my gosh, they're having Lex win. Where's that going to go? And I'm thinking back to the logic of what you were saying as far as Lex. They gave us logical reasons to be backing a number of these people. We even talked through what if Diana won? What if Cyborg won? Those type of pieces along the way. What if Joker won? There's all kinds of swerves that were going on there. They laid this out in an interesting way. This I did not see coming. And I love the use of Lara in this, because so much of it we see Jor-El being that focal figure. I love that they gave us a really nice Lara backstory going into the history of Doomsday and Krypton and where it was going. This is a character that was created originally to destroy Superman. As far as in the comics. There's no way when they create this comic character originally that they were going to tie it all the way in where they did. Yeah. Over the time, this is an example of taking a great concept and building a lore behind it that like goes above and beyond. And I love where this character's evolved to.
And you think back to when they first brought in Doomsday, he was like, oh my God. And then the next Doomsday storyline, everyone's like, I don't know if this is as good as the original one. And every time they use Doomsday character, it's kind of like hit and miss. Same thing like with Bane. He's been hit and miss every time he's been used. This right here was like, okay, let's take the Doomsday character and let's give him a great ending to the character's story arc. Let's actually tie everything together. The reason he's rebirthing, the reason he's doing this wasn't as a force of destruction. He is the alpha, not the omega. He is the power of rebirth, of relife. And I love the fact that they did that. And I love how they gave Doomsday a redemption story arc. They've actually made him now, instead of being a villain, evil character that killed Superman, he's the character who saves the universe. Because he's got the power to reborn, for Superman to be reborn and re-enter back into the contest and save the universe.
Yeah, and it's funny, Superman saying he won't be able to be reborn again ever. I say that a good writer will find a way to do that. So,
I know.
Clark, you might be wrong there, but I love that this is turning into a sacrificial storyline where he's recognizing. I love he gives it like a Rocky II moment. He's like, If I do this, you must promise me something. And Superman's like, anything. When? I love that. It's such a cool Rocky 2 moment. And he brings Superman back to life. This whole period where Lex is still the power, it contains everything, and we see him going off of that. I love that we know, oh, dude, you got a surprise coming for you.
Yeah.
That was so awesome.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite movies of all times is The Princess Bride. Yeah, one of my favorite scenes is with Vincini. He's like, ha, 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 and then falls over. Luther had one of those moments where he's like, yes, the power, everything, and it just as he's like, he's taunting Darkseid. Shall we negotiate your terms of surrender? Then all I have left to say is, ding, ding, Superman is back, and he is the King Omega. I cheered. I was like, oh, this is awesome. There have been so many times when I physically stopped reading, raised my hands over my head, gave a kind of moments. It was absolutely brilliant, and I love this look of, King Omega Superman. This, again, is absolutely brilliant look to him. And again, has the energy just crackling, even has the Omega crown on his head. I was like, yes, I'm digging this. This is what I want a statue of.
What's really interesting is Superman's going through and rebuilding the Earth. He's doing exactly what he thought he would do. He's rebuilding our world, and they even reference only better. This is what he was destined to do. What's interesting is I wasn't thinking this through. It now becomes an example of he has created this powerful universe. Darkseid is a powerful universe, and this energy is clashing, basically for which one's going to survive.
Yeah,
and it's such an interesting way for this to go, as these two have to fight for which world's going to survive, and Superman's losing at first.
Yes.
And it's really, really interesting because it looks like just Darkseid's just whipping through him and keeps going backwards. And like very similar to what he did to our universe, he is going from the future back to the past and wiping it out. And what's interesting is, again, we talk about before, and there's been the ongoing joke about, Superman's reluctant leadership and that type of thing. Throw that aside for a second. Yeah. The strategy that is Superman here, and we saw it at game night, this idea that Superman focuses on everybody winning.
Yes.
And the opportunity for everyone to be able to win if they so choose is something that's really interesting as they fight through time. And I love that page. We got the page where it almost looks like the old Disney camera that had the multiplane camera.
Yeah.
I love that it has the multiple points throughout history where we got to see, the Justice League. We got to see a Crisis. We got to see the Justice Society formation all the way back to the days of what is either Commandy or Vandal Savage or whatever. It's back to the caveman times and stuff like that, which I think is just super cool as they're falling through and crushing through all of that. It was super cool. I was glad that Superman saw what Darkseid was doing coming. This was a plan of his. He knew this was going to happen. He planned for it to happen and planned to pull himself back to the point of the Big Bang, the point of origin where he could suck up all of that energy into himself. I loved everything about how that played out because you need those moments where sometimes Superman's not just about punching.
Yes.
Superman, like when growing up for me, Superman was the guy that did that wacky Silver Agey experiments, and he was a scientist, and he would, this is where the robots came from, for example.
Exactly.
That was Superman exploring with Earth technology, learning about other cultures all around the world. He was a very learned man. And some of that was in the eyes of his, following the guise of his Kryptonian father, as well as his Kryptonian mother, a side of Superman that sometimes gets lost. I loved everything about how this fits Superman lore to a T.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, I love the fact that Clark goes back to the Big Bang, to the beginning of the universe. Why? to pull in that energy, so he's got the same energy levels that Darkseid has. And I love the fact that he's doing this, and and again, he never loses who he is.
Right.
Because when Darkseid's trying to figure out, he's like, in Kansas, it's called playing possum. Clark was taking the punches, pulling him in, just leaning him in. Come on, wham! And that's when he unleashes. And something I noticed in my art read through, and I don't know if this was intentional or if it's just something that happened. If you look at Clark when he's, on that page, when he's pulling in the Big Bang and pulling in all that energy, he's got off of his center chest plate, he's got the 2 energy lines that are dropping back down, and then 2 energy lines that go up over his shoulders. That kind of looks a little bit like Superboy Prime's look, because Prime has the steel cables down there and all that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that, Clark has that kind of look, even though it's not Superboy Prime look, but it is kind of how that energy is going down off of him, because Prime channels energy like that kind of stuff. So I was like, that was kind of a neat look to it.
Yeah, that was something that really stuck out for me with him. I loved everything about that particular fight. I love Superman's choice as far as, but I'm going to handle this a bit differently. It's no longer going to be you and me. I'm not quitting. I'm just tagging them in. And you always do, your famously, 20 years of this show, one of the things that's always been your stickling point is know when to call for backup.
Yep.
Superman knows when to call for backup.
And here's the thing. If Superman hadn't called in for backup there, he may have been able to win. He probably had the power levels to take down Darkseid.
Right.
But by doing it this way, he's channeling out the energy. He's it's a rebirth of the universe, giving all of them, pulling them back into the fight. And it's funny because he didn't destroy Darkseid.
He's saving this universe.
Right.
Rather than like building a new universe in his image like Darkseid's trying to do. Darkseid's recognizing you had a chance to win. You could have done this. This is the difference why it had to be Superman and not Lex.
Yeah.
Superman's going to make the choice that we wouldn't make. So I got to admit, I didn't even see this coming. I was sitting there saying, like, it should be Superman and this why. And we both said this, by the way. I want to say you were also advocate for Superman in all of this. I say like it's me. It's not. I'm just using my own perspective. My perspective was that Superman was going to craft the universe in the most sound image. And I didn't think that he was going to do this where it's like, wait a minute. What if I just share my power with the Justice League? And he's sharing it with everybody who is trapped there. Let's bring them back in. And including Luthor.
Yeah. Hero and villain. He pulls them back in.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple other villains in there, that he pulls anybody who is in the tournament. He releases them from the tournament, releases them from death, brings them back in, and does that massive blast, sending Darkseid into the oblivion, but doesn't kill him. So Darkseid's still around. And then the part that I 100% did not see coming, and I should have, was the fact that Clark is going away for a little while. Who knows how long he's going to be gone. And again, as this supreme being, kind of the alpha and the omega energy that he has, he's like, I'll be back. But for now, you guys got some work to do. I've got one more thing. I have something I must do, but I'll be back. And I love the fact that I did not even remotely see the fact that Clark's going away for a little bit. And I'm like, oh, crud. I'm like, holy shoot. Because I was thinking in my head, the Superman title was going to be Superboy Prime, but Action Comics was once again going to be back to Clark because they're doing the backstory of Superboy and all that kind of stuff. I was going to assume, okay, after DCKO, they're going to bring back, Superman into Action Comics. Oh, no, doesn't look like it. I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. And I do love, again, this is the kind of thing that why you want Clark to have this power, why you wanted Clark to have this possibilities of, recreating the universe, because he's the kind of guy who would do exactly what he did here. Even Diana, even Bruce, they would have done things differently. They wouldn't have brought back the universe exactly as it was, flaws and all, but Clark recognizes this is what's best for the universe. And I love that.
Yeah. 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 All of this was really great. I loved the way this wrapped up. I love how it sets the stage for new series too. When you take a look, this opens the doorway for next level as we're seeing some of them kind of laid out here. And I actually want to see all of these series, but also the fact that we have new status quos. The game night. I love in the epilogue, the game night, and the fact that we went to a new game night, but this time it's Diana, Bruce, and Lois having a conversation around what's going on with that particular piece. I really, and I love that we also got the wink and the nod back to the Batmen from Night Fight.
That's a nice Elseworld story we're going to get. I love, when we looked at this, we see Mr. Terrific sitting there saying, hey, we've got some Alpha and Omega energy out there. We got to keep track on this, and you've got, Booster saying he's going to look for Big Blue. So we're going to get Booster looking for Superman. And of course, our boy Superboy Prime, we see where the Legion went to. The Dark Legion went to the far, far future to try to hide from Darkseid. I love seeing that, it was some really neat stuff. But that last panel about with Damian, the from Night Fight, I'm so happy they're still around. And even he says, I'm getting things from other Batmen, so the other families that Bruce visited. So we're going to get something else from that. So we're going to get more stories from that universe as well. This is so looking forward to this. I am 100%, man. This is going to be great. I'm excited for where DC's going. And then just that final panels with the final couple pages with Barry. I was like, oh, we're not done yet. I love when I'm sitting there thinking, oh, okay, that's a good ending. No, there's still more, guys. We got some big stuff coming down the pipeline. I'm excited.
This was everything that I hoped it would be.
Yeah.
And more. I love that it sets the stage too for an absolute event, absolute universe event, which was a good thing as well.
The Absolute Crisis, or Crisis of Absolutions, or whatever they're going to call it. I don't know, but it's the Absolute Universe. So, and they're setting up in the title, an Absolute Universe Justice League. They're setting up, all that kind of, really cool crossover events. They had a great crossover with Wonder Woman, Batman, which was absolutely brilliant. They're setting up so much going on in that Absolute Universe. I'm so happy that universe isn't going away because of this. And we have a storyline why it didn't go away. Clark did not defeat Darkseid. Darkseid is still around. He's in his little Absolute Universe that he made, and he's gathering more Omega energy from his universe. His universe is generating Omega energy for him, and that's what I'm assuming what the crisis is going to be. Once Darkseid has enough energy, the heroes of that universe are going to have to fight Darkseid. I'm looking forward to that as well. There's so much stuff coming down the pipeline in DCU that I'm like, yes, thank you. This is brilliant.
Very, very well done.
I'm Buster.
Hey there, Dr. Norge and the Duke of It is Ian Levenstein of the Comic Timing Podcast, otherwise known as I Am Sci-Fi from Days of Yore. I just wanted to send a quick congratulations on your 20th anniversary of the podcast. I remember, it feels like it was just yesterday when I had Sean on Geek Speak for the very, very first time. And we met more than 20 years ago in person now for the very, very first time and immediately hit it off. And it has been some of my favorite podcasting journeys, being a part of the Raging Bullets history, having you folks on Comic Timing or me guesting there, really have been an absolute thrill. And I still enjoy listening to you guys talk after 20 years. Who would have thought, right? But really, it's an achievement that not many other podcasts get to say they have achieved. I'm a couple months away from achieving it myself now, which is kind of hard to believe. But from DC podcast to everything podcast back to your home of DC. It's been a long journey. It's been a long road. No, I'm not going to sing the Enterprise theme song, but I really want to thank you guys for being as good friends to me over the years as you've been. And I really want to thank you guys for doing this show and continuing to do this show, as it is a beacon of light and joy in the podcasting space. So here's once again to 20 years of Watish and and here's to many, many more to come. Cheers, guys. Hope to talk to you soon, and take care.
Ian is 1,000% one of the reasons why I wanted to do a podcast. The Geek Speak opportunity, and which actually is longer than 20 years to his point, it was such a cool opportunity. Ian's right. We met each other, and oh my gosh, what a great friend. I just immediately was engaged talking to him, and 20 years later, it feels like yesterday. It really does. If Ian hadn't been kind enough to invite me on to Geek Speak, there wouldn't be a Raging Bullets. There are some key people that were a part of this, and I've always mentioned Peter Rios over at Comic Geek Speak was one of the people, and it's Comic Geek Speak as a podcast in general. They were allowing people to do audio comments and be a part of their program. I got my feet wet there. Ian and I got a chance to meet, and he was doing Geek Speak, which was a podcast and a radio show at the time that he was doing it. And Ian, if I'm underselling that in any way, shape, or form, my apologies. It's the opposite. My respect of what Ian was doing at the time was just through the roof. And I got the chance to go on his show. And what was nice about that one, it was the first time I experienced, there's not like a time limit on this. We just got to like talk and have a complete conversation of what that all looks like. And the bug was lit. And Ian has remained a friend for 20 years. He's an example of somebody who I'm always glad to talk to and wish I could talk to more. It's been too long since I've actually seen him in person. But he's one of those guys that like you can jump on a call with him and it feels like no time has passed at all. And that's a different level of friendship when you can honestly say that every single time. I'm very thankful 20 years in that I met Ian Levenstein, because I can honestly say it. I would not be podcasting if it had not been for Ian. He's one of the key players behind the scenes. And I was very lucky during this introductory journey for that Ian was one of those people. I know you've got a lot to say about your own relationship with Ian too, Jim.
Well, I always called Ian my ambassador Quan. And Quan is a term that comes from the movie Jerry Maguire. If you've ever seen the movie, see it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But also, Ian is one of those guys that when we first started doing this, I knew you. I didn't know the podcast community. I didn't know anybody there. Ian is that guy who, right from day one, was like, "Hey, Jim, how you doing?" And it was that good friend who just immediately was like there when I was like, I'm standing around going, I have no idea what I'm doing. He's like, "Hey, man." And he was right there with me. He's just an absolute, true, wonderful friend from day one. And that's why he is my ambassador of Quan. From day one, he was right there with me. He's ride or die. Absolutely love Ian. He is just a wonderful person. I am so happy. He's one of the reasons I am so happy that we're doing this. I'm so grateful that you in your head said, "Hey, I'm going to have a guest host. Hey, Jim, you want to be the first guest host?" Sure. And then after that, you're like, we're both looking at each other like, we want this to be more than just one time. Ian's one of the reasons I'm so happy we did this, because I never would have met this guy. If we hadn't done the podcast, if you had gone a different route and just kept submitting stuff to other people, I probably never would have met him, because I wouldn't have gotten into podcast community. This show got me in the podcast community. Ian's probably one of the, arguably, Ian's the reason that I started looking beyond our podcast. There's a couple other people probably you could throw some other, nods to, but Ian really was that linchpin to me on other people out there, and just being more friendly and more open and talking to strangers. I was not a very out there kind of guy. When we first started
hold on, you're very out there. Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I was never an outgoing person. and I would go to these, the first couple of cons I'd go to, I was just quietly sitting in the background, hiding in the shadows, and he is one of the guys who got me to talk to people, got me out and just hanging out and laughing and just, just came out of my shell. So I am 100% eternally grateful to Ian for everything he's done for the show, everything he's done for me as a person. Ian, you're an amazing, wonderful human being. I wish we could spend more time together, wish we could talk more, wish we could do stuff, but you choose to live in New York City as opposed to the great metropolitan that is Cleveland. So, I guess some people like those little small towns like New York City. They don't want to be in the booming metropolis that is Cleveland. And just everybody knows for the record, originally Siegel and Schuster based Metropolis on Cleveland. So we do live in the home birthplace of Superman. We do live in Metropolis.
There's a few more things I want to say about Ian, just because of the history piece over there. My original model for Raging Bullets, actually, I was thinking of doing a rotating cast of characters. I didn't know if anybody would want to be regular on the show or anything like that. I didn't envision what you and I do now, and I actually love the way that we've done it because I feel like we're our own unique flavor. Everyone's got their own piece, but Ian was having, and very successfully having, rotational guests on his shows. And if you take a look over the years, Ian's had and developed great relationships with a great cast of people that have worked with him on various podcasts that Ian's done, Comic Timing foundationally being the rock of all of those. And when you take a look at his crew, it's Ian just being just a great guy and just knowing people that would be interesting to talk to and pulling them in and spotlighting them. I always enjoy listening to his programs, not just because of him, because of the great characters that he has on there. Brent Cassina. Brent used to do BK's Bullets for our podcasts and got to the point where he wanted and needed and should do more. Brent's a great voice. We enjoyed him as a great voice on this podcast. Love that he expanded that into the role that's happening on Comic Timing over there, because he's always been an interesting voice. Raph always did some great things for our program and for our community, and graduated, and he does a lot of guest spots with Ian and the extensive podcasting of his own as well. Over the years, I'm going to horribly forget to name people today. So please, anybody who's ever guested on this show, who I've guested on their show, who has posted in a forum, shouted us out, offered advice along the way, things like that, offered criticism along the way, whatever that you've done, any interactions that we've had with you have helped shape this podcast. We really appreciate you and the silent listener out there. Comic creators, guests, things like that we've had along the way. We've been very, very lucky to have a number of people that have come on. We're not an interview show. Clearly, there's people who do it way better than us, and it's kind of their bread and butter. We've had some really unique special opportunities over the year to do interviews or conversations on this show that I think have kind of fleshed out just background, and I've really enjoyed that. But if anybody who's been willing to give us any amount of time, sometimes it's been a lot of time, we really appreciate you. 20 years in, I am more excited now to record than I've ever been. I never thought that was going to be a thing. These things go in peaks and troughs. I've never not wanted to do the podcast. I want to be very, very clear on that. But sometimes life decides to make getting together to do this a challenge. And in the 20 years of doing this podcast, I could have never seen that 20 years later, I'm like, oh no, this is a priority. Like, I can't wait to record this show. This is therapy. I appreciate anybody who finds value in listening to us, that we somehow bring something to the table from you. But Ian's been one of those guys. One other thing I want to mention about Ian before we walk away from this, you mentioned New York City. We had the good luck in our tenure in the early stages of New York Comic Con. They were doing a podcast arena, and we did C2E2 during that time as well. It was just an interesting time to be a podcaster because they were looking for us to help promote their con until they got to the point where they no longer needed us. And there's just a reality of that. Those were some great years, though. And Ian, because of the fact that he lived in New York, was always a gracious host. So there are other podcasters that did that as well that were a part of that piece. But I remember in particular helping navigate the trains and things like that. I would I'd still be there, maybe lost somewhere if it wasn't for Ian. It was, and he's just that guy where it's like, you're looking for something to do. Hey, come on, we're all going out. Let's just go and do it. And that type of thing. Loved those years of hanging out with him. Again, I mentioned other podcasters. Please know I know I'm leaving people out, but I really appreciate Ian reaching out for this piece just for a chance to spotlight our long relationship. We've done the most crossovers with Ian's podcast over the years. It's been Comic Timing and Raging Bullets. Anytime we talk, it's always like, what are we going to do next? We actually are behind the scenes talking about our next thing. So we are going to be doing something actually really soon because there's something coming up. You and I haven't actually talked about it as of yet. So, but there is let's tease it right now because Ian won't mind this piece. We've got a Superman Spider-Man thing coming up. Perhaps we should talk about that. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a big deal that Marvel and DC are doing this piece. So Ian and I have talked about doing something like that. I'm confident enough in our relationship with Ian that I can let the cat out of the bag a little bit on that one and say that we're going to be doing something with him quite soon on that because I think it's just a great idea and I'd love to discuss it with him. So that's our plan with that. But thank you very much, Ian, for reaching out. Got an email here from Jason Moe. Dear Sean and Jim, my apologies for any name butchery. Big congratulations on 20 amazing years of Raging Bullets. This is the first time I've ever emailed you, but I started listening back in 2012, soon after the Dark Knight Rises movie ignited my interest in comic books. The New 52 had recently launched at that point, so I used that as my jumping on point for reading DC Comics. I began researching comic book podcasts and quickly came across Raging Bullets. One of the first episodes I listened to was your discussion of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. Jim mentioned that during a climactic scene, he raised his fist to the movie theater screen to help give Al some extra willpower, and Sean replied that he had absolutely not done that. This made me laugh because I somehow related to both Sean and Jim in that moment, and Raging Bullets soon became my absolute favorite podcast. I then began with Raging Bullets episode 271, which was your discussion on the New 52 launch titles, and once caught up, I went back and started from episode 1. Wow, that's impressive. It's taken me until now to fully catch up with your entire back catalog of podcast episodes, but I'm proud to say that as of literally today, I'm finishing episode 270 and have listened to every single Raging Bullets episode just in time for your 20th anniversary. My plan is now to do it all over again. Anyway, sorry for the length of this email. Have you listened to our podcast? But I really want to express how much you guys have been my friends over so many years, despite never having met you. As I'm sure many others have already told you, listening to Raging Bullets is truly like hanging out with great pals. It's been quite a journey with the various curveballs that life has thrown your way over the years, but I appreciate you bringing your listeners along for the ride, even during the hard times, and really letting us get to know you guys. Through it all, I admire your dedication to releasing thoughtful, in-depth episodes of Raging Bullets almost every week, even 20 years later and counting. It's obviously a labor of love. Thank you both for all the time and effort you put into it, and thanks for turning me into a lifelong DC Comics fan and a lifelong Raging Bullets listener. Your friend, Jason Moe, Horatio McCoy in the Facebook group. And right back at you. It's funny when I know so many people from forums and Facebook groups and things like that. This stuff matters a lot. And the link of your email was, I really feel like you were talking to us, and it was great to have this conversation with you. And please, I encourage you to send us more, and feel free to send us audio comments as well if you want to do that. Maybe at some point in time, we can get you on the show as well. I love having conversations, but because I'd like to do that as well. I'm impressed that he went back and listened to all of it.
I know.
That means a lot to me, though, because, we pay behind the scenes, and we shout out our show sponsors. They help offset our costs. This is not a money-making podcast. You don't go niche like we do if you're looking to make cash. That's not a violin piece. It's just kind of the reality. You're right. We do it because we love it. I'm really enjoying it now more than I ever have. And I hope you are feeling that as you listen to the new episodes, maybe in comparison to some of the old ones along the way. You and I have been through a lot of life events during our time doing this show. And he's so right on that.
Yeah.
When I take a look in 20 years, everything that's happened, my parents were still around when this whole thing started. I wasn't married yet when this whole thing all started. It's very interesting, as far as where this has all gone in 20 years. So it's was the year when we started this one? Yeah, it's crazy nuts how all of this.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the interesting comments, like when I'm talking to people at work, I'll talk about friends I'm talking to. Some of them still like, have you ever met them? Like, no, but they're still my friend. I still like them. They're still my buddy. Even though I've never physically been in the same room as this person, they're still my friend. And that's one of the things that goes on with this show. People who we talk to, people we don't even talk to. It's, we're all in the same kind of community. We all love comics, and we love this, we've got the same kind of energy and vibe going on, that it's kind of a neat community that we have here. And I want to just say thank you for the email, but also to all the other people who are listening who haven't sent any email, hasn't done any comment. Yeah, you're still part of this team. You're all my friends, because, we all have something in common in that we both love this stuff. We both love comics, and, it's, I think, but
we all do.
What?
You said we both do. We all do.
Oh, yeah, we all do. Yeah. We all love.
Oh, no, wait. I'm more agreeing with your sentiment. Yeah. I apologize. I'm clarifying for you because I think you're making a great point. So
yes.
That was not meant to slam you. It was more of a, let's make it clear. You're talking about our larger friendship base. And
yes. And again, it's, thank you all very much. It's, again, I don't think people listening have any idea how much this has helped me, how much this, how if it wasn't for Raging Bullets, I don't know where I would be. I really have no idea as to, where my life would have gone through this. So thank you.
Yeah. The other piece I want to say to him too, and I really appreciated because it takes time to put together an email like that and really think it through and what you want to say to be a part of this. We want any of you that want to be a voice. If you want to just quietly listen to the podcast and not comment, there's people who don't participate in forums and Facebook groups and emails and things like that. They just want to listen to the show and move along with their life. Cool. We appreciate you. I know that there's people who listen to our episodes and do it casually. Listen to portions of episodes or select episodes. Cool. We love you. There's people like him that listen to everything. And I'm flattered that you find value in us being a part of your life that way. And so glad you reached out. It's trite to say that we consider you a friend too. We do. It's a very truthful thing. Jim and I could have these conversations without recording any of this. I don't have to edit. I don't have to prepare. We can just get on the phone and say, hey, did you read this? And just have a conversation around it. Preparing for this takes time. Editing this and putting it out as a podcast takes time. There's things that go wrong along the way that you need to fix and stuff like that, all because of the fact that we want to do it because we are communicating with you. And if you ever want to be a part of the podcast, feel free, shoot us emails, shoot us audio comments. If you got ideas for guest spots, maybe we can coordinate those things as well. And I said the maybe piece is not deterring that. It's just the opposite. It's always logistically making that happen. But I always enjoy having guests on. So welcome aboard if you'd like to. We'll figure out a way to make that work. This has been 20 fun years, and I'm looking forward to 20 more, which I never thought I never thought I'd say. This has flown by, especially this last year. I'm going to say this last year in particular, like you, I've needed this, not in a negative way. It's been nothing but positive doing this show. It's been fun just hanging out and enjoying comics at a time where I think comics need voices, people being advocates for them. And it's fun to just kind of celebrate things that we're loving right now and sharing them and getting it out there. So thank you. We do have another comment that I want to shout out there. And this one is for Everett Starr. Congratulations on a great podcast. It was the first one I listened to. I listened to you guys because you were talking about a character called Champion in the Wonder Woman arc, and I had to listen more. And man, remember that? That seems like, now this is so strange. That seems like a long time ago now.
Yep.
And that's just because of the amount of reading when you think about the stuff you've done a long way. But that was some great conversation. I loved talking about Wonder Woman in that era.
Idea.
Yeah, so it's really good stuff, and I'm always interested to hear what cues people on. I'm not a stats person. Like we get stats for our episodes, but one thing I do is I look to see what episodes people are most going back to, because they're ones that down the road it's like, oh, okay, people really like journeying back to those. Our entire catalog gets traffic, like still, which amazes me, and we're finding out why now. And I really appreciate people finding value in the old stuff as well. It's interesting to see which episodes people most gravitate towards, because you want to replicate those at some point in time. But I like the ones, too, that like maybe didn't generate as much interest, but they're more niche episodes within the podcast as well. I think they're fun for our diehard fans who, are like looking for, oh, I'm glad they talked about that. And that's one of the reasons why we went back to DC. It wasn't because we're anti-Marvel or anti-independent or anything else. It's in order for us to be able to do these in-depth explorations, you also want to be able to talk about some of the niche, smaller books along the way. We can't get to all of them, but it's fun to grab those arcs and talk about that stuff too. So thank you for everybody who participated. If I missed somebody, please, or if like, I wish I had sent something, go ahead and send it. We love throwing this stuff into our shows. There's no deadline on this. If you want to be conversational to us, ragingbullets@gmail.com is our email address. It's always open. The Facebook group is always open to you. I'm going to try to get a voicemail line going, and I apologize. I've dropped the ball on that. Skype used to just have that built in. I don't have a built-in method for it now, so I've got to figure out how to set up a voicemail line again in a way that's convenient and easy for me to keep an eye on, so I don't miss anything, but also makes it easy for you to participate. And that's really what I'm looking for with a voicemail line, is just an easy way for you to be able to get audio into an audio podcast, because that's what I'm looking for with audio. Is it's nice to hear you and to make this more conversational. But thanks for everyone who participated. This meant a lot.
Human helicopter. The Flash rotates his body, rising faster, faster.
RagingBullets.com is our show website. That's where you can find details on episode releases and obviously any changes that we make along the way. We like to communicate with you. I do blast that out into Twitter/X and our Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, and I really want to tell you how much I appreciate everybody who's posted there, not just now, but over the years. The collaboration and communication we've gotten from all of you. These are things that during the course of the week, just in putting together a podcast, I can't do myself. And we're so lucky to have a community that's taken it upon themselves to make that theirs. And it is theirs, very much so. We are part of it. It's theirs. It's their playground. And I love the fact that I am more knowledgeable because of the fact that people are starting conversations. We post all of our podcast episodes in those groups. And the idea behind that is for you to be able to comment, thoughts, corrections, deviations over the things that we're discussing over there. I also want that to be an open forum for collaboration. We are doing this podcast. Actually, great case in point. Ian Levenstein reached out, and Ian helped us get our start as a podcast. That all comes from collaboration and sharing. If you got a podcast and you're getting your start, or you've got a comic book related or pop culture related podcast you think it'd be of interest in our community, please shout it out. You got a blog, anything that you feel is of relevance, you're welcome to shout it out in our community. All I ever ask of people is if you shout yourself out in our area, let people know about us too. I feel like, this collaborative is a great way to just for all of us to let people know what we're into. The About Us section of our show website is where you can find out details on how to connect with us on gaming platforms and personal social media. I am proud to be a regular co-host bi-weekly on Is It Jaws, a film review podcast. Good friend Paul Spataro, again, let's talk about podcast community, was kind enough to listen and find out that I was interested in doing. a movie podcast, invited me on as a guest, and then invited me on to be a co-host. That's, again, part of the collaboration, and talk about things that have reinvigorated me. Being a part of that podcast has been a huge reinvigoration for myself. I love doing that podcast as much as I love doing this podcast. So please feel free to check that out if you are a film review fan. And we are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Absolute Catwoman, number 1 of 6. Absolute Green Arrow, 1 of 6. Both of those are 48% off, only $259. And we also have Barbara Gordon Breakout, issue number 1, 48% off, only $207. Thank you, DCBS.
We will be doing the introductory issues once again of all of those books on our show. So if you like to follow along with us, definitely pick those up, because we're going to be following this next level and the new absolute phase that's coming along. Over at InStockTrades.com, just to follow and piggyback off what Jim's saying, they have the Absolute Edition hardcovers, such as Absolute Batman Hardcover Volume 2, $29.99 regularly, 40% off, only $17.99. Same price for the Absolute Wonder Woman Hardcover Volume 2. They also have a great series of Absolute trade paperbacks. You can go back to the beginning with Absolute Batman Trade Paperback Hardcover Volume 1, The Zoo, $17.99 regularly, 40% off, only $10.79. And they also have things like the Absolute Martian Manhunter Trade Paperback Volume 1, $17.99 regularly, 40% off, only $10.79. And Absolute Wonder Woman's Trade Paperback Volume 2, $19.99 regularly, 40% off, only $11.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for supporting us over 20 years of this podcast and so many other podcasts. Jim, I also want to thank you. This is something that 20 years later, the fact that we as friends still like doing this together as much as we do, I love it more now with you than I've ever have. And that says a lot about our friendship and just the ability to do this show. I look forward to doing this with you. We knew that magic right from the first one. There was something there, and it completely changed the whole trajectory of this podcast. It was supposed to be a rotation of people. Instead, it just wound up being this thing. And to 20 years later, sit there and say, now I'm more excited to do this show now than I was 20 years ago is baffling to me. But it says a lot about you. I come here, I know what I want to say clearly because I don't shut up. But yes, I'm admitting it. But what's equally intriguing to me, actually more intriguing to me, is to hear your thoughts and have reactions to them, because that's fun. It's fun when you talk about this and learn other people's thoughts. I feel like I've over the years learned more about how to enjoy this medium by hearing other people's thoughts, and yours obviously to the most. But thank you for going on this journey with me, because this was something you're like, what the heck are you talking about when I first started this? And I knew you were going to be that guy that was going to take the risk. Whether we did one of these together or not, I knew you would at least go on this journey with me, and I needed somebody to start this with. What I could not have foreseen is how fun it would be to do this with you. First episode, I knew, I want this guy around for like all of this. And then I don't think you and I had no idea it was going to be 20 years later, but I knew then that there was something special about doing this with you. And I think as much as our similarities are a part of this, it's the differences as well. I genuinely enjoy hearing everything you have to say and what you bring to the table.
Dude, hey, man, I've said many times, I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for Raging Bullets. I really don't. This podcast has done so much for me. I don't think I can ever truly express in words just how much what this has done for me. And I am so grateful that you had that moment like, hey, let me ask Jim, he'll probably do it. I'm like, yeah, and I'm so happy that I didn't just say, I don't feel like doing that. And I actually said, yeah, why not? That'll be kind of fun. And again, I remember getting ready for that first episode. And I'm writing out my notes, and I in the early days, I used to talk about what I was going to say with my mom. And I used to, and I remember when I was sitting there talking about how I was going to, basically not, I was going to trash that Hawkman. And she's like, Sean's not going to have you on again if you do that.
And then they said, tweet, tweet.
Yeah. And
that was a big part of that episode.
Yeah. And it was funny thing because, and here's a funny thing. Mom actually said, are you just trashing it to trash it? Or do you actually like, no, seriously, well, I think, I had those issues. And that was the thing. She's like, as long as you're not trashing it to trash it, just be honest, don't say you like something if you don't like it. Say,
Agreed.
Point out what you don't like, and all that, and again, that was, there's so many just memories I have tied to this show. And with, especially with Mom, because Mom was always the one with the comic books, and I could talk to her about comic books. I could talk to her about the show. I'd come home from, going to your house. We used to record in the same room, and, I'd drive to your house, and we'd hang out, we'd talk. And then I'd come home late and I'd give Mom a briefing on what happened and talk to her about what we did, what we said. Oh, okay. And she was always in on it, and so for me, Raging Bullets always has a connection with my mom. Comic books always have a connection with my mom.
My parents both listen to this.
Yeah.
Not every episode, but they both listen to select episodes of this. And I agree with you on the connection. I mean, it's something with the family. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No. This is like my nephew. I know, and my brother Bill has listened to all the episodes, so he's in on it. My nephew Will has listened to the episodes. I think some of my other nieces and nephews have maybe listened to some of this stuff, but those are the two I know. They, because you talked about earlier about the going back to episode 1. My nephew Will did that. He went back episode 1.
Wow.
And he's listened through, so he's been on this. So it is kind of neat when the family gets involved, and just it's there's so many just out there that I'm like, man, this is it is shocking to me. 20 years, man, it is. And and again, we joke around, say 20 more years. I'm like, yes, I'm in. I'm in for we keep doing this until we physically can't do it, or we're like, okay, we're done now, But right now, I don't see any end, man. I am loving talking about comics. I'm loving hanging out with you. We've been friends since high school, man. And it's this has been just that journey of a lifetime. So I am eternally grateful to you. You're my brother from another mother.
Right back at you.
Your family. 100%. So thank you.
So I want to clarify for people out there, if you're thinking of starting a podcast, there really is not a physical toll. No, I'm joking aside. Actually, I do want that to be an aside here. If you're thinking of doing a podcast and you've ever thought of doing it, Ian was a great example, and I mentioned Peter Rios. I am not shouting out, and I apologize. There's so many people, Bruce from Comics Cast, Chris from Collected Comics Library. These are people from ages ago. If I start shouting them out, David Price, I was just sending a few things on social media recently. I've known David from back in the early days of Comic Geek Speak and stuff like that. We used to do episodes on Ian's show together back in the day. If I keep going on naming people, I am going to leave people off over the years. Any of you out there that podcast in the podcasting community, please know I love you. Anybody who's listened and participated in the show, come again, whatever, however that goes with the podcast. Really appreciate you.
Okay,
but if you're thinking of doing a podcast, do it. The entry point, as far as financially, is very low. It really is finding out somewhere to store it and sit down and start recording. Remember, you're in control. You can throw out the window your first recording and completely do something else if you'd like to, but give yourself a chance and go ahead and do it. Podcasting is just a wonderful outlet, and I highly recommend it, and we can always use new voices. It's an interesting sort of thing. I think the comics podcast community, too, is the most welcoming. I'm sure there's some people that don't like the competition or anything like that. I tend to find that the competition makes more noise and brings people in, and gets people interested in comics, and then gets people interested in all of us. And I think that's part of our goal here. You mentioned the Shadow War of Hawkman. I was floored on that one, and that's where you grow, because I picked issues that I liked. So that's part of, how this goes behind the scenes. I do the production part of the podcast for, the most part. And Jim, you're the co-host on that end. Jim wasn't a reader at that time. So I was picking books and I'm like, I dug that. Let me send that over to Jim. I love Hawkman. Let me get this over to Jim and see what he thinks. So he came on the show and he's like,
okay, fellas, get ready.
He was talking to the birds.
Very good, Sean.
I do love that. I think
Jim,
that has
you're a
the
little flat
only
there,
distinction
so
of being the only
Jim.
book that we fully followed
Jim.
up on that we've ever
Jim.
done before, because at a certain point in time you felt differently. Both were honest. Your initial reaction was a very honest reaction. You were like later, hey, I'd like to talk about that one again because I've reread it since and I feel differently, which I thought was a worthwhile follow-up because of the fact that it was a different conversation versus rehashing the old one that we had before. There's never been an edict on this show that we have to be positive. There's never been an edict on do anything other than just share honest thoughts.
Excellent job,
show.
guys.
Our show is mainly positive because we
that's
tend
enough.
to pick
Let's
things
not
we
push it.
want to talk about. So,
No, I don't.
versus
I don't
things
buy
that we don't. I do not have that experience. I want to be very, very clear. In 20 years of doing this show, I have not had that comic that I picked up and go, oh my gosh, this sucks. Let's talk about it on the show. If I did, I would, because I think that would be interesting to listeners too, to hear what was the book that Sean hated. I just haven't had that. And you haven't either, because you would have brought it to me. You would have said like, hey, I had a book I really didn't like and I want to talk about. Can we talk about it? So that's been an interesting part of this journey. But I want to thank all of you again for listening to us over the years. No matter when you listen to this particular episode, we come back and do this over and over again because we're lucky enough to have an audience. And you are friends. It does mean something. You're not just a number when you're there. The numbers do mean something because it's nice to know that people listen. I don't care how big or small the numbers are when you're doing a niche podcast like that. This doesn't matter. What matters is that there are people that find value in spending time with us, and we find value in you. That's why we do this. So thank you. It's a great synergy. Thank you for 20 years of this. If you are enjoying this, buckle up. We don't have any plans on going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, this is just as fun now as it was before, more so, actually. I really am more excited now to do this podcast than ever, which I did not foresee as being a thing because I've always loved it. It says a lot when you do a podcast behind the scenes, the pre-production and then the editing and all the pieces like that. The recording is the best part of doing a podcast. I will warn you of that. Some of the other stuff can get tedious from time to time. It doesn't, though, when you are enjoying this. And thank you for joining us for 810 episodes, and look forward to 810 more. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and we are starting our tackling of Next Level. We're going to start with Deathstroke #1, Batwoman #1, and Lobo #1. We will see you next week.
Bye.